Kravets. If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Hello and welcome to episode 396 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm your proud host, Howard Kravets. We are live at 10 a.m. Eastern on the East Coast here in the United States. Whatever time it is, wherever you're watching worldwide, welcome to the HHH Racing Podcast as we are here to bring you live the last four races on a huge day in Saudi Arabia. It is Saudi Cup Day 2025. I'm going to bring on my special guests on here in just a moment. Please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. We are very close, ladies and gentlemen, to 5,000 subscribers. We'd love to have you join our family. All you have to do is hit that red button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. On the top right on YouTube, there's a notification bell. Please also hit that so you know when new content will arise. And below the video player, there's a thumbs up button. We greatly appreciate if you enjoy the broadcast to smash that like button below the video player. You can also listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. We have a lot of other promotions that we're going to be talking about throughout the show. But without further ado, we want to get on right to my very special guests and co-hosts today. One, they've both been on before. One gentleman's been on many times, one only once. But I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, if you want expert analysis, I'm sure they won't say they're experts, but don't let them fool you. Expert analysis of the last four races of Saudi and really anything international racing. Let's bring on my good friends and co-hosts. First, from Liverpool, England, he is also the author of our new segment on our website called Follow the Jockeys. He's ready to go with his HHH Racing podcast hat, Mr. Davy Lane. And also, we have the host of the Final Furlong podcast out of Ireland. He's just a stone's throw away from Ballydoyle. I mean, can you imagine living there, ladies and gentlemen? It would be unbelievable. He does a great job. I'll let him talk about his podcast throughout our 3-hour show. But let's bring him on. The wonderful Mr. Emmet Kennedy. Gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon. Welcome to Saudi Cup Day 2025. Davey, I'll start with you. Cheers, sir. How you doing?
I'm tired, Howard. I've been up early this morning playing Caulfield in Australia, Blue Diamond Day, and I managed to get the winner of the Group 1 Oakley Plate on the blog, and followed it up with the first race of the 100th running of the Cape Derby in Kenilworth, Cape Town, with the winner of the first race, a 2-year-old by Canford Cliffs, out of not an obscure, but out of a Port Elizabeth yard, Alan Greff, but owned by Ridgemont, and Ridgemont's a prominent South African set of connections, a former British or English cricket player, wicketkeeper.
Yep.
So
we're going to talk about Follow the Jockeys a little bit later, the wonderful blog that you're writing for our website. Emmet, why don't you introduce yourself to people that are not familiar with you on this podcast and worldwide, and talk a little about how excited you are for these last four races on Saudi Cup Day.
Yeah, thank you, Howard. Great to be on with yourself and Davey. Looking forward to learning a lot from both of you as well. I am very much in national hunt mode, in jumps racing mode for the Final Furlong podcast and for TalkSport 2, who I work for. It's all about the 2-mile hurdlers, the 3-mile, 2.5 furlong stairs in the Gold Cup, and you've plugged me into dirt racing in Saudi Arabia and speedball sprinters. So it's been a great crash course to get back into the mood for flat racing, because we're building up to a really interesting flat season this year.
Of course.
And flat racing is very much an international game now, Howard, obviously, with your excellent podcast. And hopefully people will listen to the Final Furlong podcast as well, where we cover both flat and jumps racing and international racing as well. We have to have you back on before the Kentucky Derby. So looking forward to it. Good day's racing, and looking forward to chatting to both of you about some really interesting racing today.
Very excited. Of course, Cheltenham's coming up too for you jumpers. That's going to be a great meet. We got a lot of people in the chat already from the gallop out at the bottom of the screen. Davey, I'll get you in a second. Emmet and Davey, LFG. I think we all know what that means. We got Sports Freak is here. We have Rob N is here. Let's see. Wow, gallop out Davey. Look at this. Davey is my hero. betting Australia through Saudi throughout the night. Davey, you wanted to say something?
Legendary stuff.
Yeah, I just wanted to just jump on what the point about the Kentucky Derby that you made earlier. One of the tips I gave out today is actually on the Japanese road to the Kentucky Derby, which is tomorrow. And if you go to the website, you'll see the tip. But the jockey, Follow the Jockey is the name of the blog, was in Saudi yesterday. She rode a winner. She jumped on a plane, and she's in Tokyo on Sunday morning, about to ride a horse on the road to Kentucky Derby. While the big cats are away in Saudi today, she's en route back to Tokyo, and she'll be riding in a horse in the Hyacinth Stakes, which I think has got not just a chance to win the Japanese listed race tomorrow, but as a chance to go all the way. Yeah. So that'll be at the lower end of that. Yeah.
Yeah, Davey, I'm scrolling through your blog. Just go to our website, everyone, and you can find the Follow the Jockey. It's really quite the follow, literally, Emmet. So I encourage everyone to go ahead and do that. Guys, here's what's going to happen today, ladies and gentlemen, as you're watching. We have a lot of things to talk about. They've already had race 4, 5, and 6 at Saudi, and we have the last 4 races we're covering with 17 minutes to go in the Neom Turf Cup, which is a Group 2. It's a $2 million race. So going to go 1 mile and 5/16. Just set the table for everyone. We're going to be talking about the horses in detail starting in about 30 seconds. Because of contractual obligations, we can obviously not show the video of the race. But what we're going to do when the race goes off is we are going to play the audio through my phone. So everyone lives in different parts of the world watching, and there might be delays and whatnot. So feel free to watch and listen however you like, but we are going to have the audio of all the races live as they happen through my phone, which is basically through TVG television here in the United States. Very quickly, guys, 1 minute recap of the first few races. Sumion with an unbelievable ride in the last race, winning at 18-1, beating a horse that we all like very much, Cracks King, who was 3-4 wide, uncovered, ran huge. Straight No Chaser, the USA horse, wins the sprint. I have to say it was not a very strong field. The Japanese didn't really show up, although the filly finished a good third. And then very disappointing for Chad Summers for USA fans. Cyclone State just ran horribly in the Saudi Derby. Davey, very quick thoughts on what you've seen so far, and then we'll get into the Neom Cup.
Well, I mean, the Straight No Chaser was pretty much as expected. Johnny Velasquez wasn't going to go over there if the horse wasn't right, and he won. I had nothing much to say about that. The Chad Summers race, I mean, I wasn't expecting him to do any good. What was disappointing was Cracks King in the handicap race, which is a great race. Something the Breeders' Cup should think about is when you bring in lower jurisdictions and get their best horses to run on the marquee stage. So, for example, if you was to have a Breeders' Cup in Del Mar, wouldn't it be great if there was one race where you'd have Mexican, Jamaican, Puerto Rican, Venezuelan, and other horses from the hemisphere rocking up and making it part of the spectacle? So the Saudis have done something quite good there. I quite like that idea.
Yeah. Any thoughts on the races so far, Emmet, how the track might play? I know as nighttime falls, it usually favors closers a little more than the speed. When the sun is out, it usually favors early speed, which we did see on the dirt at least so far.
Yeah, I would imagine the Japanese jockey thought he had the race won on Shin Forever, but Golden Vekoma had other ideas. And much to my absolute delight, I decided that Golden Vekoma was a bet today and then talked myself out of it. So that's a great start.
Well, that's all right. There is a late pick 3, and we're going to give out our late pick 3 tickets, but not obviously until after the next race. All right, guys, let's get into it. We have 14 minutes. We're going to have a lot more time in between the rest of the races, but I'm going to show the USA DRF past performances, everyone. But we're also going to talk about odds, guys, throughout the day, because obviously we know the markets. This is a whirlpool market that everyone's betting into. But as you gentlemen know, the market could be vastly different and with different odds in Europe and UK and whatnot. So we'll talk about that as we go along. Let me go ahead and bring up the field very quickly for the Neom Turf Cup. It's about 1 mile and 5/16. It's a Group 2, $2 million US. Now everyone needs to understand. Let me bring us back on screen here. What you're going to see, ladies and gentlemen, is the post position order. The saddlecloth numbers, Haunted Dream in this case, the 4, is not in the 4 gate. He is breaking from the rail. We are going in post position order, not numeric order. So please keep that in mind as we go along. You've got Haunted Dream, who we think is an outside shot here for Wathnon Racing. Caliph, who was a horse that we discussed, Davy, in our horizontal betting, who we decide to fade. He is 15-1. Here's the big name that we got to talk about. Both of you, Davy, will have you go first. Shin Emperor right now 6-5 in the World Pool is 5 for 9 in the money. 7 for 9 lifetime, over 2.4 million US. Has competed in the ARC Group 1s. This is Yoshito Yahagi. This horse is going to be very tough to beat in this spot.
It really is. And this is part of what the Japanese have. The Americans, as Paul Halloran talks about, Kentucky Derby fever. The Japanese have long had this thing for winning the ARC. They have ARC fever. And Shin Emperor was an attempt to win that. And they went for a French bred. Sayuni on top with a bit of Galileo down below. And raised the horse up in Japan and then brought it back to Europe for the ARC. And made a very, very respectable performance in Leopardstown on the way to the ARC, but the ground didn't go his way in the ARC, and now he's here after getting to the Japan Cup and running a very, very close second to Deduce, horse of the year last year probably. So this is a very live horse, well drawn in 3. It's shortening in the market just as I was looking at the Hong Kong board, which is the same as the World Pool because the Hong Kong Jockey Club run the World Pool. It just dipped from 2.3 to 2.2. So it's basically even money, bit of 11-10 even money. And it's going to be very, very hard to beat. I have one that I'm trying to beat him with, but that is the horse to beat.
Okay. And this podcast will go best, ladies and gentlemen, if you are very active in our live chat. And if you have any questions at all for Davy Lane or Emmet Kennedy, who are more familiar with these foreign horses than I am in general, although I have deep dived today as I always do, please make sure you comment in the chat. Any questions, each race, general punting questions or betting questions. We're also going to try to educate the public, as we always do, Emmet, on different types of markets and some different terminology. Davey, you wanted to chime in, and then we'll let him.
Yeah. I've got the Hong Kong betting board right up on my screen at the moment. What they do in Hong Kong, they have 3 color codes. Red is for the favorite, but when a horse takes money, a certain percentage of money, like 25%, the price of the horse will show up as a green code, and when there's a real plunge on the horse, the code, then the price of the horse will be a brown code. So the Hong Kong commentators will call the horse being green lamped or brown lamped. That's an indication of a flush of money. So if I'm watching the screen right now in the minute 30 seconds before the off, I could let you know, or let the viewers know.
That'd be great.
When there is a plunge of money during the moments before the race.
That'd be terrific. We have Onyx Barias here. Race 7, Japan. He likes the exacta box. That is not this race, by the way. That is the next race, but we appreciate it. And the Gallop Out, by the way, who's in the chat, is our wonderful friend Rian Anderson, who is co-host of Pacific Horse Players and has his own podcast as well. So check out the Gallop Out. Does a great job. Emmet, let me bring up the odds right now that we're going to see in the odds checker Euro market. If you can describe, especially for our American punters, what they see on the screen here, Emmet.
Yeah, so these are fractional odds, which thankfully you do have with TVG and all that when you're doing your TV coverage. 6-5, Shin Emperor, 11-10, 5-4 seems to be the best industry price available. So 4 wins 5, and you get your 4 back as well, so on and so forth. Al Rifa seems to be on the drift, 11-4 out to 3-1. Spirit Dancer is coming in for money, won this race a year ago. Trust Your Instinct, we'll come back to in a second. He's an interesting runner here, the second for Joseph O'Brien. And then Caliph, who I might have done an about turn on, lads, and he's starting to be backed as well. So when a horse is blue, that means they're coming in for money. When a horse is pink, that means they're on the drift. In terms of Shin Emperor, I'd agree with everything that Davey said. He's a full brother to Satsas, who won the ARC ended up being Coolmore, but Peter Brandt back in the day. And there was an automatic assumption that he would handle heavy ground because he's a full brother to an ARC winner who won it on heavy ground. But he'd never run on that surface before. All his conditioning had been on good ground in Japan. He was just a completely alien surface to him. So when you see him beating 12 lengths in the ARC, that's disappointing, but there's a very valid excuse. He just didn't handle the surface. And just because his brother did doesn't mean that he's going to. Prior to that, he'd been third to Economics and Auguste Rodin in the Irish Champion Stakes. And then he finishes second to the Deuce, turns the form around with Auguste Rodin in that race as well. That form is miles above everything else in this race, I would say. He doesn't win very often. He's only raced 9 times, only won twice. They were his first 2. But he's a classy racehorse. The fact they've kept him going as a 4-year-old would bode very well for him. I think he is definitely the horse who's going to take all the beating. It's just a slight doubt in the back of my mind. Is this potentially a prep race for Dubai? And they want to go and win the Shima Classic with him. If he's fully ready to go, he really should win.
I would agree with you. I think he's going to be tough here. Al Rifa, this is a horse that I know very well, and American punters might remember, did race at Saratoga in the Manhattan on Belmont Stakes Day last year, and I really liked him. He was quite disappointing. Apparently, he didn't love these somewhat sharper turns at Saratoga, didn't quite fire. He's well fancied by many people, but Davy and Emmet, I know you're both a little against Al Rifa as the second choice. Davy, talk about the positive and negatives with Al Rifa in the Neom Turf Cup.
Let's go with the negatives first, if we not to spoil the party, but Yataki Taki is a legend in Japan and the best jockey in Japan for decades. But when he travels overseas, maybe he meets his match, and historically you can burn some money on him. But the horse has been bought by Japanese connections, and they want their Japanese jockey on top of him. So his best win was probably in Berlin, in the Group 1 in Berlin, where Dylan Brown McMonagle was aboard, and he rode him perfectly and he won. And so I think even though we're getting a legend, I think the jockey switch is a downgrade a little bit. Secondly, Joseph O'Brien has been interviewed about the horse, and one of the tricks of being a punter is actually being able to read and understand the views of trainers and jockeys and read their face and read what they're saying. And not all of them are liars and this and that and the rest. But an honest reflection of Joseph O'Brien was that the horse needs a race, I think, and it's got other targets in the year and so on. So it didn't seem to me like he was the horse was ready for tonight. That's how I felt.
I mean, I know you feel somewhat similarly. In fact, I won't directly quote you, as we spoke several times before our show to get ready, but let's just say you think this horse is a bit overrated, to put it nicely.
Yeah, I do. And if he didn't handle the tight turns in Saratoga, how's he going to handle these? I would imagine he's going to need this for one thing. Now, he looks well. Looking well doesn't necessarily mean that he's revved up to the 9s. There's a couple of pieces of form for Al Rifa that would make you think he's a really elite top-level performer. And look, he is a Group 1 winner. He won a Group 1 as a 2-year-old. It was one of the worst runnings of the Vincent O'Brien National Stakes you'll ever see. He won a Group 1 last year in Germany. Any of these horses had run in that race, I'm pretty sure they would have won it too. And then he's got 2 key pieces of form. Second to Ace Impact, who was an unbeaten middle-distance superstar who won the Arc. And second to City of Troy. Ace Impact was probably 80% fit for that race. He was being prepped for the Arc. And City of Troy hated the soft ground at Sandown. Lugged to the right, was hanging to the rail. And Al Rifa still couldn't beat him. On the Final Furlong podcast, I'd put him up as the forecast bet. City of Troy to win, Al Rifa to be second at 33-1. So I was very pleased with that. And the reason I'm saying that is, if I was so bullish about him there, why am I not bullish about him here? I don't trust him, and I really don't trust you, Takataki. So, no, he can make the market for us here, and we'll take him up with something else.
Davey, one of the things that I really appreciate about you when we first met each other 4 years ago or so, and I'll talk about the history of this podcast, was the fact that you're capable on the regular, as we say here in the U.S., of finding what you guys call roughies or long shots. There's one in here that both you are interested in. We should talk about with 5 minutes to post here very quickly. The number 9 Straight is a German bred who's 22-1 right now in the Whirlpool, who has one particular race in Germany in September where he was right there with Breeders' Cup champion Rebels Romance. Talk a little about Straight and why punters should fancy this long shot in this race a little bit.
Well, I mean, Rebels Romance just won his Group 3 over in Qatar recently, and he's a Breeders' Cup winner. And during the summer, late summer last year, late September, he was in a race which included the winner of the German Derby, Palladium, and a few other horses, good horses. And Straight gave him all he could handle all the way down the home straight. And really, when you were looking at it live, and I backed Straight, and it looked like Straight had won the race as it was coming to the final strides. But Buick held on, The horse, the connections of the horse, and it was good to listen, even though I don't speak German, to the YouTube. Again, it's a modern world now. You don't need to have the broadcasters tell you what to think. You can go on YouTube and find out for yourself. You follow the German coverage, and you get a sense from the owners after the race that they were talking about, where he likes firm ground and he will go to maybe Hong Kong or the Middle East. So the horse needs firm ground, and he gets it now. He was supposed to go to Hong Kong in December, but they didn't come through. They tried one. They tried to get another race into him, and it turned very, very wet in Munich in early November as a prep for the Hong Kong race. So he's back now, and he gets the firm ground. On the dam side, it's Henry the Navigator, who was all about getting the firm ground and the hard ground. And I think it holds him in good stead. And Thor Hammer Hampton is last year's new young German champion jockey. And some of the old guard of Germany, where he's taken over from them. So it's a good kid on board and a great price. And he's taken the Breeders' Cup winner to a neck. I mean, that's good. That's good form. And,
sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dave. 3 minutes, Emmet. How would you play straight? Now, we don't have each way bets, which some people that are watching Emmet don't even know what that is. We can talk about that later. Would you put a win bet here? Maybe put them in exacta or perfecta underneath Shin Emperor. I think that's what I'm going to do here is just go a straight exacta 1-2 with and then not straight, but an exacta with straight in second and maybe a little bit on top. That's how I would bet this race. Any thoughts for the punters, Emmet, how you bet straight if you like this horse?
Yeah, what I did was a combination tricast and a combination forecast. So that's first, second, third in any order on Shin Emperor straight. And I'm going to confuse things by saying Caliph, because the more I looked at this race last night and the more I looked at it again this morning, Straight's got a huge chance here if he can get back to that form at Rebels Romance. His Group 2 win in Italy was on soft ground. The race wasn't a whole lot, but he wandered all over the track. He was like a drunken sailor towards the end of the race. The reason he's doing that is because he hates the ground, but he still had the class to be able to get through it and go and win. So now on his preferred good to firm surface, he should fly here as long as he's okay, and he probably should be. Yep. I really like the Zarek progeny too. And Caliph is an interesting one in the sense that he's got form that would translate in through Fantastic Moon. So Fantastic Moon beat Straight, but Caliph was able to beat Fantastic Moon in a Group 1 in Munich back in July of last year. He's a real eye catcher in Shot In behind Romantic Warrior, who we're going to see as the big superstar later on tonight. He was third last rounding the final turn. His jockey asks him for a big effort. He tries to go forward. He's a real eye catcher. There's just nothing much left in the tank towards the end of the race, but it was a huge run. And it was a really eye-catching run in this race a year ago where he missed the kick, got interfered with in the straight, but stayed on pretty well too. So he's got course experience. Shin Emperor is going to be hard to beat. If there's going to be an upset, I think it's going to be Caliph or Straight. And if that's the way it pans out, then I'm going to shoot the lights out. So Caliph, Straight, Caliph, Straight, Shin Emperor in any order for me, 1, 2, 3.
Davy, go ahead.
Yeah, two things. Shin Emperor's now 1.8, so he's odds on at the moment. And another thing, one of my partners in crime, Phil Edwards, he's very big as a horse underneath for anyone playing the try or the super in this race. It's Bolidi Porto. So not for a win bet, but if you want to play a try and you look or a super.
That's the 2 horse, everyone. Everyone is the 2. Yeah.
The 2 horse could be live for the super underneath. Or the try if you really push the envelope. So that's based on someone I trust. That's not from me. I'm just referring to someone I trust.
Okay. Right. Okay. So American, we can in America at least, there's win place forecast, which is the exacta, the terce, the try, super, Quinnell's in place. Guys, they're behind the gate. I think Straight's going to have to find a position early, guys, because we just saw Cracks King ran a blinder, but was wide and cost them the race. So they are into the gate. I'm going to go ahead and turn Emmet and Davy's camera off. I'm going to play the sound of the Neom Turf Cup, everyone. Enjoy this year's Neom Turf Cup live from Saudi Arabia.
Spirit Dancer is still in the double digits. Richard Hoyles, it's getting hot, as Rachel Candelora said. They leave the stalls. Caliph was a little slow out. Haunted Dream and Shin Emperor straight to the front on the outside. Trust Your Instinct is also racing in a prominent position. Killer Ability just wanting to settle in behind the leaders. Al Rifa getting onto the back.
Shin Emperor, the favorite, has gone right to the lead.
The slow starting Caliph as they come past us with Sovereign Spirit. Spirit Dancer held up as normal on the inside of Straight with Bolide Porto 3 wide. So Shin Emperor immediately taken to the front by Ratusi Sakai. In second place, Trust Your Instinct, half a length away, keeping him honest. Racing in third on the outside in the green, white and red colours, Killer Ability. On the outside of the grey, Haunted Dream. Al Rifa quite keen on the outside of Caliph. They are 5th and 6th. Spirit Dancer hugging the running rail. White face, red jacket, 3 wide. Remains Bolide Porto. And the last two, Sovereign Spirit and Straight, is last of all. They're now into the back straight. And out in front, still dictating, is Shin Emperor. Half a length clear from in second place, Trust Your Ability. Racing in third towards the inside is Haunted Dream of Killer Ability. Caliph and Al Rifa are the next pair as they work down the back straight, with still Straight being the back marker, still Spirit Dancer saving ground on the inside, racing on the inner of Sovereign Spirit as they continue their progress towards the exit from the back straight. And out in the lead, Shin Emperor has dictated terms throughout. A neck or so in advance of Trust Your Instinct as they pass the 800. Haunted Dream on the inside of Killer Ability. Then in 5th place is Al Rifa in the check colours as the pace just begins to wind up. And now Trust Your Instinct applies a little bit of pressure on the home bend to Shin Emperor. Haunted Dream in third. Killer Ability. Al Rifa will be pulled towards the outside. Spirit Dancer taking a brave route and at the moment hasn't got a great deal of racing room. Shin Emperor's seen off Trust Your Instinct. Haunted Dream moves into second. Al Rifa switches towards the outside. Spirit Dancer is trying to come through horses with a white face, but it's still Shin Emperor who has the lead. It's 3 lengths from Haunted Dream. Spirit Dancer. Al Rifa, they're not making any inroads to Shin Emperor. They've had to wait a while for their first winner of the night, but Japan will land the winner of the Howden Turf Cup. In second place on the inside will be Caliph from Al Rifa. In fourth towards the outer is Straight with Haunted Dream.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, there we go. Emmet Kennedy is reacting in the background. Let's put him on. Emmet, Caliph with a big run for second. I'm assuming that's good for you, the way you're reacting, or no?
No, it's good for me, but I've just realized that Straight was right there for third and gets done by the horse I was telling everybody. He's got no chance. Al Rifa can't win.
Yeah, so Shin Emperor, Davy, just takes no prisoners, goes right to the lead. Caliph with a fantastic ride up the rail. And our long shot Straight was in last. The pace looked moderate, made a big run. It looked like he had a little bit of traffic. Again, the camera's not great into the turn. Made a big run wide and just hung a little bit late and didn't quite get there. But Shin Emperor is a serious, serious horse, Davy, who's going to have quite the career. It's just getting started, really.
Yeah, he was revved. He didn't let the foot off the gas at all, did he? And he just kept going. I was looking at him in the paddock earlier. He looked very, very well and healthy beforehand. You know, the coat was shining, looked very, very good. No stone left unturned.
No. Al Rifa did, I think, what we figured. Ran fine, but really a non-threatening third, and looked like Straight was fifth. Did you guys expect Shin Emperor to go to the lead? I like the aggressiveness. I very rarely, gentlemen, would prefer a jockey to be less aggressive than more aggressive. I don't know if he doesn't always go to the lead, but if they're going to give it to him, why not? Don't even mess around on it.
Yeah, I would completely agree with that, particularly in a race where you're not entirely well. You've got a Group 1 horse, and you're taking on Group 2 horses that are capable of running well in Group 1 company. The lesson I would take from Al Rifa in this is when he's a really big price in a Group 1, he's a horse you can play. When he's this kind of price, you just have to discard him. You just can't trust him at this level. But he can perform at a massive price like he was in the Eclipse and get a piece of the action. But that's the only way to play him. In terms of this horse, this is his first win since his second start. So it's taken him a while, but the form was there. That run in the Irish Champion Stakes was huge. That run behind Dodus was massive as well in the Japan Cup. You have to ignore the arc. He just wouldn't have handled the awful ground that day. And a lot of horses just didn't get into it. This is a serious, serious racehorse. And I'm very much looking forward to him versus Rebels Romance in the Dubai Shima Classic. That's going to be one hell of a race.
That's where he's going to go next, likely. And then Davy, I mean, we don't know. I know you're familiar with a lot of these horses and connections. Just as we'll hear more later, but let's say you were owning the horse, and why not? Because it's Davy Lane. I mean, he campaigned in Japan. He's Japanese, trainer and jockey and whatever. Would you have a campaign with him in Europe, or were you just, because Japan racing in the summer, that's sort of their off season to some extent? So What would you do with Shin
Yeah,
Emperor
yeah.
after Dubai? We lost Davy. We'll get Davy back.
I know.
Emmet, what
Royal
would you do
Ascot.
with Shin Emperor after the Dubai race? Assume he comes out of it well and runs well.
I'd take him. What did they housed him in France last year, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
And
He's
stabled
a
him there.
4-year-old.
I would take him to Royal Ascot and I'd go for the Prince of Wales Stakes, which I'm pretty sure he'll win. There's no City of Troy to worry about. Economics on his last run absolutely blew out after bleeding, and he missed most of last season. And you were kept hearing all these different things, but we're just saving him for this race. He bled in the Dante and he bled in the Champion Stakes. That's not a horse you can trust anymore. That Prince of Wales Stakes is there to be taken, and for Japan to have a winner at Royal Ascot, that'd be huge. Send him there.
That would be huge. We have Attila Corral in the chat. And we'll get Davy back as soon as possible here. Respect Davy's pedigree remarks about firm. I mean, this is a question I actually wanted to ask both of you as Davy's about to come back on here in just a moment. I've always wondered with Euro horses, Emmet, and I think American punters, as we have Davy back here, can learn from this. Here's my question for two very sharp Euro punters. When the turf is very soft, do you believe that there are horses that absolutely love soft turf, or is it a matter of certain turf horses can just tolerate soft turf while others really dislike the soft turf and makes it look like certain horses love soft turf? If you understand that question, Emmet, can you expound on that a little bit?
I'll try and answer this as succinctly as I can. I think that there's a theory that if a horse has the class, they should be able to go on any surface, and it's nonsense. City of Troy was able to win the Eclipse last year purely based on class. Had the actual field that was supposed to line up for that race lined up, he might have found that a little bit too much of a test. And you saw what happened to him in the Breeders' Cup Classic, which, to be fair, is a different surface. But the fact he didn't handle soft ground or barely got through it would tell you that he needed that firmer surface. This fella hated soft ground in Paris Longchamp. Absolutely hated it. And yet he's bred to appreciate it because his full brother sailed through the mud on more than one occasion, and particularly his last ever race, which was winning the Arc. So there's no logical reason as to, if your full brother is bred to sail through the mud, but you can't do it, and yet you're both Group 1 class. Well, why is that? I think it's to do with conditioning. It's to do with how horses are prepared. Bear in mind, Irish horses are prepped on deep sand gallops. Japanese horses aren't trained that way, so the conditioning is a little bit different. So it depends on who your trainer is. It depends on where you're trained, and it depends on what your past experience is on that kind of ground. For a horse like him, if it's wet at all, good night, good luck, forget about him. Whereas if you're talking about an elite Aidan O'Brien Group 1 horse, they'll probably handle the surface despite the fact that their pedigree might tell you otherwise.
Yeah, we were just talking, Davey. It's really important for American punters to understand, how soft the ground can be in some European races. I mean, in the United States, there's races that be completely taken off the turf, and there's certain horses in Europe that not only do they run on that soft turf, they actually relish it, Davey.
Yeah, they relish it, but they don't have the tight turns, with few exceptions.
Of course.
I think maybe like Sligo and like Chester or someplace like this that they have the tight turns. But and that's something American race courses, with all the money America has and the rich owners and so on, and they're rebuilding Belmont Park, and now I know we've lost San Francisco and Chicago and Boston and all the metro places, but there has to be someone builds a racetrack that isn't one of these like tedious straight, repeat wash oval. Someone's got to come up with something interesting so that the horses don't get stuck on these tight turns on the turf, where they can race on the soft ground. And they also need to put the drainage in so that when they do have monsoons or rain, that they can handle it and race directly afterwards. My other point, going back to the data, if you want to get into the data, and we're now living in a world where, let's say 20 years ago in American football or English soccer or what have you, I mean, there was no data like we have now for players. I mean, they know what the player is eating for dinner, what they're doing, where they have all the monitors on them and so on. And the fans and the bettors have all the data as well about how many corners this guy takes and this in swingers and out swingers. Well, where is that data with horses? All we think we have the PPs, but what, for example, they don't weigh the horses in the US or the UK. They do in Hong Kong. And going back to what you talked about with soft ground and firm ground and so on, you can go to these museums of the great horses and their shoes that they wore, and you'll see different sizes of the shoe and the horse, so that, if you want to get into it, we should have a far more elaborate set of data that you will know, like how wide the hoof of the horse is and so on, and what that translates to in terms of going. I mean, I'm talking about taking the game to the space level, and we don't do that because it's in someone's interest for us to keep losing money and not knowing lots of the data. Just going with the sort of.
But Davy, just very brief. Sorry, Howard. Just very briefly. Bear in mind that like the American level of data. Like I was sent the Brisnet data for the Breeders' Cup by an Irish American trainer. Very kindly sent me it. Howard sent it to me this year for Saudi. Your level of data is unbelievably more detailed and complex than the level of data that we get. It just is. It's on a different level. And there are a couple of things that are changing. There's a private handicapper service called Proform that's excellent. Race IQ data is excellent. You can learn various different aspects and different things from that. But the level of information that's available to the American horse player versus the level of information available to the British and Irish one it's cringingly, embarrassingly bad. And there was a whole campaign to try and get sectional times introduced to British and Irish racing. And you had a major editor of the trade paper arguing, no, the fans are too dumb to understand that it's not needed. And I'd be pretty certain that wasn't actually that person's opinion. That was an opinion that was being parroted to him from somebody else in a position of authority going, we don't want to spend the money on this, so just try and make out the fans don't want it. Sectional data is key to understanding how a race was won. Understanding how a race was won will tell you how good a racehorse is. All that information is power. You're told that as a child. That very much applies to horse racing betting, and yet for some reason we're treated like kids and then expected to pay top money for a mediocre product at times. It's ridiculous.
I appreciate these conversations. Like I said, we do have about 30 minutes or so between the races. Gentlemen, here's what I'd like to do before we get into a fascinating edition of the 1351 Group 2 Turf Sprint, which is about 6 3/4 furlongs on the turf, including a very exciting USA horse with my namesake. So, I mean, obviously, we got to talk about that horse in just a little bit. Before I want to do that, guys, several things I'd like to do. Right now, I'm going to put it on the screen, especially for those of you not familiar with our show. We have a fantastic website, hhhracingpodcast.com. This is the website. Again, an incredible amounts of information that you can look up, our current lineup, our shows. Look on the top of the screen. We have something called Power Pick Tip Sheets, which comes out every Saturday. You can click that and you can look into what our tip sheets will look like. This is just a very short version of what they look like. You can look at our history. We are very transparent, as Davy especially knows. And then under the more section on most people's, depending on if you're in your laptop computer, again, there's the Follow the Jockey. That is Davy Lane's blog on international rating. Wow, look at that sharp guy, Emmet. Very sharp. And you know what? I'll tell you what, that photo is real sharp too. Davy, let me ask you a question. Who took that photo and when?
Yes, that was you, Chief, on day one of Royal Ascot.
Yes, sir.
This past year, yeah.
My first visit to Ascot, Emmet, and the sharp Davy Lane looking ever so dapper. There he is. But anyway, highly recommend people look. Yes, he did very well. And then, of course, there's Follow the Jockey, and we have a lot of other things that we're going to be discussing throughout the show. So please make sure you check out our website, our Power Pick tip sheet. Look below the video player in our description on YouTube, how you can subscribe to the Power Pick tip sheet. It comes out every Saturday. It's very inexpensive. It's very profitable. And Emmet Kennedy, I want to announce, I'm sure it's not a big deal to a lot of people. Maybe it's a big deal to you. I'm giving you a free subscription, sir. You're going to get it starting next Saturday. Maybe you can do some punting in the U.S. Because, look, a 5-1 in a maiden claiming race at the Gulfstream is the same as a 5-1, Group 1 at Ascot, right? So it pays the same. Maybe we can find you some winners. We really do appreciate you, Emmet, joining us today.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to reading that. Thank you very much. Much appreciated.
Davey, why don't you talk a little bit about the Power Pick tip sheet? Because when I talk about it, it sounds like I'm boasting and bragging because it's I own the podcast. But for someone who was not familiar with me or the podcast that much, we got you right onto the Power Pick sheet for years. Tell everyone why you think it's very profitable and worthwhile for people to invest in the Power Pick tip sheet.
Well, first off, it's not a solo effort, number one, and that relates to the show as well. Howard was on his own initially and was going along, and he was great and so on. One of the great inspired moves he made was to get co-hosts, people who are affable, trustworthy, smart, know what they're doing. They didn't pay me to say all of this. and they come on and they have shows regularly, and then they put their opinions on. So it's actually good to get. It's good to get sort of sort of like a trace paper of opinions and lay them over and just see where things are going. So what you'll have is because American horse players or handicappers or gamblers, they play pool betting a lot. We don't really do that over here, and that's one of the failures of this country's betting systems, is that the bookmakers, even though they're all in competition with each other and in theory offering better prices, the money's getting siphoned away to the shareholders of the bookmakers or the owners of the bookmakers and not going back into the racing. So what we have is a tip sheet which gives you a grid generally about what to play in these pick fives or pick fours or pick threes, and then you have what they call spot plays, horses that are probably what you would call the value plays, not necessarily always your double figure prices, but good healthy prices. And a little paragraph about each one, and usually 2 tracks a day, on a Saturday in America with about 3 horses. There it is today. I haven't seen today's because I've been busy, but
yes, this is for Gulfstream later today, and I made some suggestions on the Saudi Cup as well at the start. There's Cracks King, who was a ridiculous 15. We can talk about morning lines later because there are a lot of morning lines in the U.S. at least that are not very good. But anyway, here's the spot plays you're talking about.
Right, and the way and this is one of the reasons I started the blog and Howard let me do it. It's only a trial blog, by the way. It's just running this month and it wasn't just a case of just getting my tips up, but it was a case of showing how the game works. Like we talked about Rachel King earlier. She's in one place 1 minute, she's in another place. She's riding a horse that could end up in the Kentucky Derby. This is all very interconnected. And if I hadn't put the blog up, I might not have even have known myself, because I might not have scratched around to realize. And then what? 3 days later, I would have found the information out. And I'm like saying to myself, well, why aren't I ahead of the game beforehand? And then if you're ahead of that game, why aren't you playing the game? So one of the advantages I have, I think, is that I like to play in jurisdictions where maybe the traders don't necessarily have the edge that they would have on my home base. So if I'm playing horses in Calcutta or wherever else, I'm only up against some trader in the office who's just as smart as me. I'm not up against a bank of traders who are like collecting the prices with more money. And then I like to stitch together a few bets from different places. So I like to take a couple of things from Howard, I cherry pick, and a few of my own, and put together a bet. Hey, doesn't come off all the time, but sometimes it does. Comes off nicely as well.
Yeah, I enjoy doing it. Appreciate people looking at it. Last thing, and then we'll start talking about the Neom Turf Cup. If you are on YouTube right now and you greatly appreciate the time that Emmet and Davy are spending, of course, I'm spending the time too, but I'm the host and the founder of the podcast. So I take that sacrifice, of course, and lovingly do it. But if you appreciate all the great intel and time that Emmet and Davy are spending, and you feel like you make a little donation, we greatly appreciate that as well. It would be in the live chat on YouTube. There is a $sign at the bottom of the live chat on YouTube, and you can donate $1, $5. Hey, throw us a $50. We take that too, and we'd appreciate that if you felt like you wanted to. All right, guys, let's get into
We're not dancing for tips, but we'll gladly take the cash.
There you go.
Do a shot.
Here's a trivia question for you guys. Why is it called the 1351 Turf Sprint? Why is 1351?
Is this to do with the foundation of Saudi? Is it to do with their charter?
No, it's the
Davey, what do you think?
It's the distance of the race.
So there's actually 2 reasons. It is the about distance, but also in the Arabian calendar, what they use, 1351 is a year. Somewhere where, if you're familiar with the Jewish calendar, it's a year for that. 1351, ding, 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 Emmet. It translates to, I believe, 1923, the founding of this country of Saudi Arabia. Look at this guy. History, knows it all. All right, guys, let's get into the
we were both right, to be fair. We were both right.
Again, 6 3/4 furlong. So it's still a sprint, absolutely. But, obviously it's not a 5 furlong sprint. I'm going to roll through some of the field here because we have time. This is a very polarizing horse. Number 1, Anaf. Anaf won this race last year. And Davey, I'd love for you to expound the virtues of Anaf and your pick last year, because it was huge for a pick 6 that you, myself, and Phil Edwards have. And after you talk about last year and why you liked him, tell everyone why you completely are against him this year, even though he's still getting some placings, but appears to be a bit off form.
Okay, well, the reason I picked a NAF last year, and he was 40-1, was twofold. And I took some heat from my co-gamblers about putting the horse on the ticket, but we kept him on. 2 reasons that I chose the horse, or picked the horse. Well, apart from its form that was good, was number one. The horse had an entry in a prominent sprint race in Japan 6 weeks later. Didn't go there eventually. So that was a bell ringing for me. And number 2, Rian, who went on to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint, as people in Delmar would have been noted, was booked. And I thought that was significant because I know he's a great jockey, a young jockey, fearless, and so on. So all of those things came together, and that was my reason. Based on the jockey and based on where the connections want to go. So as Americans often talk about the past performances, you're looking where the horse has been, and you do that. But I always like to look at where the horse is going. It's one of the reasons I landed on Cracks King so early, because I remember my notes from 2023 when Cracks King had a German Derby entry. Now, that's not something that hundreds and hundreds of trainers do. It's maybe about a dozen or so British-Irish trainers throw a German Derby entry in, and that was one of them. That's significant. All right, the horse didn't go to the German Derby, and it didn't turn into a group horse, but it was borderline group horse, so it was always going to be better than a lot of the handicappers was running against today. So again, going back to it, I always like to know where the horse is going, where his entries are, where they're thinking, because this is the plot for a series of connections and trainers. They're leading up to something, then So that was key for me for a NAF. Now, the reason I'm against him is after winning in Saudi, he shipped to Dubai for the Dubai sprint, and he caught some sort of pneumonia. So he came back to the UK and didn't really race on. And I've had walking pneumonia in the past, and you don't really recover from it in a certain way. It just sort of sticks with you on some really fractional level. So I think the horse is gone. I might be proved wrong today, but I think the horse took a big hit to its system, and it hasn't had the form since. It's only been the second favorite, just out of laziness from traders and bookies and punters who just look at it and see that it won last year and assume it's going to be right. So I have no sentimentality in this game. I loved it last year, but I'm against it this year.
Interesting. And before we get your opinions, Emmet, look at our great fans. We have the best fans, viewers, listeners in the world. One of them is Brad Anderson, a great friend of the show, personally podcast. A $20, look at that, a $20 donation from Brad Anderson. Thanks, Davy.
Shout out Brad Anderson.
Thanks, Davy and Emmet, for your time today. And Nathan Woodward said, "Wait a minute, what about me? I'll throw in 9." He might like the 9 horse. I don't know. He's going with $9.99 from Nathan Woodward. Guys, we really do appreciate that, as do Emmet and Davy, because they know me, guys. The check is in the mail for this show, so you guys know what that means. Chris Walsh is also here, guys. Chris Walsh does a great job with Equine Edge. Check out Equine Edge. What's up, Howard and crew? Chris, thanks for joining the show. Quick thoughts on Anaf. Emmet, are you in the same camp as Davy? And then we'll talk about some others here.
Yeah, 100%. I know this horse really well. I don't know how Davy put him up last year, but well done. And to be fair, look, he was in form last year, but I really liked him a couple of times last season, and I couldn't quite get my head around why. I really liked him for Ascot, and I couldn't quite get my head around why he wasn't able to refire to that form. And then that pneumonia story explains an awful lot. Look, if you just look at this from the ratings agency's perspective, we've got Racing Post ratings and time form. They're like the gold standard in Britain and Ireland. Last year, in his 3 prep races, his last 3 races in the UK last year, he had an RPR of 115, 112, 116 for his prep run in the all-weather. Then he records a 116 when winning this race last year. He has never got back to that level. The only time he got close to it was a 110 in Newbury, and on time form, it's worse. He clocked a 118 plus for his prep race. Prior to that, he'd been 118 and 111. He has again failed to get back to that level, not even close to it. And last time out in the same race where he has finished second, and that could fool you into thinking he's coming back, his time form was 106 plus. I think he's gone, and I'd be amazed if he could win this.
I'm a big fan of time form, and that's very important in this conversation. We have hundreds and hundreds of people watching live right now on YouTube and on our X. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciate that. I'm a big fan of time form. Dave and I had a conversation about time form. You believe in time form, Emmet. I know everyone's got different speed figs they watch, but you can see enough, and it's on the screen right now. Enough you can see has regressed 105, 106, 103, which leads me to this horse. And this is the fascinating horse.
Yes.
Davey and I disagree a little bit, and this is very curious. The time form numbers for Ascoli Piceno, a very talented filly from Japan, who's currently the 5-2 favorite. The best that she's ever run is 106. If you compare her time form figs, Emmet, to other horses in this race, she is slow. Yet, because of her class level and other reasons, a lot of people like her. She can win. I'm a little dubious. I want to see it. What say you about Ascoli Piceno, the Japanese filly with Lemaire Emmet?
So, yeah, I get the time form analysis. However, that's time form looking at Japan. And time form is very much based for Britain, Ireland, France. You've got your specialist United States service. How reliable are the Japanese figures? I don't know. I don't think they have a Japanese specialist. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm doing them a disservice there. I'm a subscriber to time form. I'm a big believer in them, and I'd be a big supporter of them, particularly for flat racing, not so much for the jumps, but definitely for the flat. The way I look at this race is really quite simple. I think that the more I watch back her run in Australia, I think she was just compromised by the draw and then by the way the race panned out. And she's basically the only Group 1 horse in the field, and the rest of them are Group 3 horses. So if she's ready to go, and we've just seen a Japanese winner on the card, and they finished second in the big 3-year-old classic as well, if we want to call it the Saudi Derby, I don't have any reason to think she won't be ready. Lemaire is over for the ride. Of course he is. She's the Group 1 classy horse. They're not. So if she runs to the level of form that she can, she'll win. And she's aided by a really good draw in 3. So she should win this. But I take your point as to why you think she's slow. I completely take that point.
Clearly a class play. We have some other some roughies, some longer shots that I know that these two don't necessarily fancy in byline. Now let's talk about my namesake, Howard Wolowitz.
Howard.
If you're a fan of the Big Bang Theory TV show in the United States, which is one of my favorites that ended about a year and a half ago, great show. Howard Wolowitz, for those people who don't know, was a character in the TV show, very popular here in the States and really throughout the world. Big Bang Theory, great show. I always thought this horse was more of a 1,000-meter, 1,200-meter type of horse, and 200 meters per furlong, everyone. So when I say 1,000 meters, we're talking 5 furlongs. But the race at the Franklin Sampson, the Grade 1 there at Kentucky down in September, up and down hills. It's a very undulating, more European style turf course at 6.5. Really convinced me otherwise. He ran fine in the Breeders' Cup Turf Spin. It was just too short when Ross Orion, I believe, gave an unbelievable ride on Starlust at a price. And then got a prep for this on the synthetic going 6 in a race that I know well because I had a small ownership piece of a horse that was actually in that race. I believe that was the Shards race. I'd have to go back and look. But Jaramillo is a very good jockey, guys. He's not, he's sort of middle range in terms of where you'd put him in the pantheon of jockeys here in the States. But he's very good with sprints. He's aggressive. D'Angelo knows how to get horses ready in the Middle East. He's got experience with it. 5-1 right now. That's not just American money. This is a whirlpool. Davey, I think this one is interesting.
Yeah, Jaramillo's got experience in the Middle East too. He was XY Jets rider, wasn't he, over in Meydan? So, yeah, and he's got great gate speed as he showed at Ascot there when he was there this year. So,
but he's tactical. He doesn't need to lead in this race. I think he can get the distance.
Yeah, he can get the distance, and the horse is I mean, it had a Hong Kong entry as well. It didn't go to Hong Kong, but it's they've had their sights on a big purse overseas for a while, so it's definitely one to take serious. And the money is there because we're looking at the board here. He's just gone from 6.7 to 6.5, so the money is coming in for Howard Wolowitz.
Well, let's take a look at the. Whoops, I need to go to the next race here. Again, this is the Euro betting market. Let's see where Howard Wolowitz is. You see, Ascoli Piceno is the favorite. while it's not much lower, see, this is what we were talking about here, Emmet. Now, is that because he's an American? I mean, I would understand that, but he's what, 3 times the price almost in the UK markets as opposed to the Whirlpool. That's a major difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think most of the British and Irish punters are just looking at, well, first of all, it's a massive price differential for sure. But I would just imagine most of the punters are looking at this from the perspective of he's an American who got beaten by Starlust, who was basically a Group 2 horse in Europe.
Right.
So how is he going to be able to go and win this race? But Starlust was really suited to Del Mar on the fast ground, and he got a cracking ride, and he wasn't beaten far that day. And in between that, he's a winner at Kentucky Downs, which I know can be a controversial track with a view to the Breeders' Cup in Del Mar, because the form doesn't always translate, and it didn't in that race. And then he's won last time out as well. I don't see anything wrong with him at all. I think he's a huge player here, and that 10-1 might be a little bit too big.
I agree. Dark Trooper is a very sharp local horse. I don't like the local horses in general in Saudi. I much prefer the local Dubai horses next month. And by the way, I should mention, and you guys have zero obligation, but I will get hate emails and people standing outside my house with pitchforks if I don't get Davy and or Emmet on the show a month from now. So for Dubai, so you guys are more than welcome. I invite you
sign me up.
To join us if you can. Obviously, that'd be great. If not, we understand. There are some UK and Great Britain horses. We got Task Force is 10-1 for D'Souza and Varian. Any quick thoughts here, guys? Either one.
Yeah, I liked Task Force. I liked Task Force last year. The last time we saw, actually, poor old Poker Face didn't make it, which is a terrible blow. That was a really nice horse for the Chrisfords, and he's just passed away. But his last start in Britain was behind Prague, who was a Coolmore cast-off, who turned into a borderline group. Definitely a Group 2 class, borderline Group 1 class horse. It wasn't a bad run at all. Prior to that, he'd been behind See the Fire, who's a Group 1 class horse for the Baldings, and Oisin Murphy. And the form at Lead Artist isn't bad either. He's consistent. He's tough. It's not a downgrade going from Rafe Beckett to Roger Varian. It's basically you're staying the same. They're both top class horses, top class trainers, I should be saying. Sylvester D'Souza, top class horses and top class trainers. Sylvester D'Souza, good jockey booking. I just wonder if he's in here for the owner wants to have a nice runner, and that's why he's there. And he wouldn't be a horse I'd be backing at 5-1. If you're talking about 15-1, 16-1, yeah, we can have a chat. But the prices available here are 5-1, so no interest for me. But he's a nice horse.
I want to make sure my European parlance is correct. This might be a jolly for the owners.
No, not at all. That's when they make a trip. Okay. This horse is owned by His Royal Highness Prince Faisal bin Khalid. Yes. And he's not there on a jolly. This is probably their bought for local racing.
Yeah.
In study, which is getting bigger, and it went for about $250,000. It's the price would have been different if this horse was a nose or a neck away in its races, but most of the time when it's been losing, it's 4 lengths, 3 lengths. It's been running against good horses, but it's not been that close to them.
Yeah. Let's talk about.
He's not far behind Van Dijk. He's not far behind. He was battered by Notable Speech, to be fair, but he's not far behind Hatem. They're all good horses, but the point Davy makes is it's not like he's beaten a length by them. He's well held by them.
Yes. Yeah. Very, very good points. Let's talk about one more horse, guys, and just let Davy and Emma and everyone know after this race, and there's about 10 minutes. We'll show the audio. We'll come back for a quick minute or two, guys, and then we will take a commercial break after this turf sprint. Let everyone stretch their legs.
On, right, Howard? The pick 3 is on?
Yes, it is on, and we're going to talk about it right after 10 Happy Rows. So, yes, okay, our personal pick 3 is in, and we're going to show that our show pick 3s. We'll show that in a minute. Guys, I am very interested, as well as Davey, and I think Emmet, all 3 of us, on 10 Happy Rows. Now, 10 Happy Rows, the Japanese horse, breaks from the outside. That is not ideal. But this horse, this mare, who's now 7, has tactical speed. And I thought ran very well. And we can show this race because it's, in the United States, at Del Mar. This was the Breeders' Cup Turf Mile last year. And you see 10 Happy Rows, who was 50-1, was up close to a pretty hot pace, 22-3. I will let it roll and wrong. And just fade a little bit late in the big white blaze there is 10 Happy Rows. The winner, More Than Looks, is way back here and came from last. So you see, let me freeze it right here. Guys, if this race was about, the same distance as today, she wins. Now, of course, it's not. But my point is that this horse probably this distance will probably suit. You see, that was 6 furlongs in a blazing 108.4 around 2 turns at Del Mar. And, obviously she faded late. She was on the wrong lead. I'm really not a big fan of that. And horse just came over the top. Davey, let me go to you. If she can find a spot, she's right here. She only lost to More Than Looks by what, 2.5? She's a player at a price, don't you think, Davey?
Yeah, and she's like 12-1, 14-1, something of that order. She's probably the best of the Japanese. I know I've played her. I've got her live right now. I played some horses on. One of the advantages of the British system is you got more sort of elasticity. So on President's Day, I played some horses at Santa Anita and Oaklawn Park, but I stitched them into a couple of races today. So I've got some money coming to me if the 12 or the 13 can win. So
nice. Good luck with that. Quick thoughts, Emmet, on 10 Happy Rose, and then we're going to show our late pick 3 tickets. Ladies and gentlemen, there is a late pick 3 that you can bet on all the American betting platforms. Quick thoughts on 10 Happy Rose, Emmet.
Well, I said I just checked the time form figures just to see what the story is. They've got no race cards for this, so this is just the database of the horses themselves. The horse I like, the favorite, is time form 112. Howard Hollowitz is 107. 10 Happy Rose, 117. She's fast. She's really, really fast, and she should improve for cutting back in distance as well. The point you make about the Breeders' Cup Mile is a good one. Maybe in hindsight, they felt they should have gone for the other race, but they were worth it to go and try the distance at least. She's a player. I don't like the draw. The draw is going to be a problem. But
yeah,
if she gets out fast and gets a decent enough position, she'll be right there.
I mean, what do you do, Emmet? I mean, do you gun to the lead and just hope that you can clear, or just get, track right outside the leader, or do you maybe, use a little bit of speed and try to tuck in mid-pack? I get a feeling this horse really is more free running. I would just sort of let her run and take your chances, no?
I'd gun her, try and get the lead. I would gun her, try and get the lead, and try and get a really good position.
Do you think, knowing the horses that you know in this race, do you think she can get the lead? How much early speed is in there, Emmet, as far as you know?
Oh, geez, there's going to be a fair bit of it, all right. But she's fast. She's fast away from the stalls, and she's got plenty of early speed. Plus, she had the stamina to run over the mile in the Breeders' Cup. So while she's cut out towards the end, that class and stamina is there. Use it. Know that you're going to have enough left in the tank towards the end of the race. Gun her and try and go and win it.
Davey, you agree with that logic?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah,
okay.
and Christophe Lemaire will be watching for that, and he'll be quite happy to sit behind it, but he'll be in a prominent position too because he's drawn 3, and that horse likes to go forward.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting, guys. Let's go ahead and show our. People are wondering why I'm not looking at the camera. Look, I got to make some bets, guys, and we got to punt a little bit. It's not easy to do both, but heck, people at home understand. Let's show. Let me go,
baby.
Let's go. I'll tell you what I did. I mean, we're not going to hide it. I'd love to hear your guys. Let's give a quick top 3 in this race. We'll show our pick 3s. I'll go first, guys. I want to see it from a Scully Pacento. I'm probably wrong, but I'm going to go with my namesake. Not because he's an American, and not because it's got Howard. I think he's very good, and I'm not sure really how good this field is, guys. I'm going to go 6, 13, 12. I'm going to go Howard Wallowitz over 10 Happy Rose over a Scully Pacento. What say you, Emma? Give us a 1, 2, 3.
12, 13, 8. While Task Force doesn't win very often, I think he is interesting drop back in trips, so he can stay on for third. But this is going to be a Japanese 1-2. 12, 13, 8.
And your top 3, Davey, in this race?
12, 6, 13.
12, 6, 13. So we're very similar. Let's go ahead and show our pick 3s. Now, what you're going to see on the screen, everyone get your paper and pencils and get your phones out and be ready to start firing if you like the opinions of the gentleman on the screen, perhaps mine as well. As we've got, I'm trying to see how many. I think we got, 8 minutes here? I think we're doing okay. 5 minutes. Davey is playing a $1 pick 3 for $24. He's going 6, 12, 13 with 3, 4. With 3, 5, 7, 9. Davey, 30 seconds on your logic for this pick 3 for you.
Okay, just the whole 3 horses I said to you. I can't see the winner coming from any out of those 3. Next leg, Continuous, looks like a bit of a plot job for Aidan O'Brien. It's a horse that's ran in New York. It's been pointed at all. It's a classic winner in Britain, the St. Ledger. It's much better than these horses, and if it's fit and ready to go, it wins. Mile was an unlucky fourth in the Epsom Derby. The Derby, as they call it, the English like to remind people it's called not. They don't like it being called the Epsom Derby. It's called the Derby.
Oh, don't! Oh, you will be excommunicated.
Yeah. All right. So that's them, and then in the final race, we've got two favoured horses, the obvious ones, the Forever Young and Romantic Warrior, and then two at a price. I've gone with the 7 and the 9 El Código and the remind me what did I go with?
Romantic Warrior, a Ramjet. The 7 is Ramjet.
The Japanese, yeah.
Yeah.
So Argentine and a Japanese for a price.
There you go. So there's Davy's pick 3. Emmett's pick 3. Look, Emmet, we know he's got plenty of cash laying around, but he's just gonna crush a skinny pick 3, which I like that, Emmet. If you have strong opinions, why mess around? I mean, he's got Iron Man to his left there, ready to help him out. And so we're going to rock and roll, Emmet. He's going. There he is. There we go. You're singling the 12 here, so you're not going to mess around. You're 12. You also like 3-4 with 4-5. Play it 10 times for $1. That'd be $40. Your quick thoughts here, Emmet, on your ticket construction.
Yeah, I think the Japanese, or I think Ascoli Piceno, quick pronunciation to try and get out of that as I make a mess of it. I just think she's the Group 1 horse and taking on a bunch of Group 2 horses. So as long as she gets a pretty decent start here, I think she's going to win. Very similar thoughts to Davy about Continuous. Fascinated about the fact that they've got Jan Bruegel, Illinois, Kyprios, and yet they've brought Continuous back for a staying campaign for a race they won last year. Continuous won the St. Leger. Tower of London was beaten, yet he was able to win this race a year ago. This seems like they're coming for the Saudi money. And Dira Mile is the most obvious, unexposed, exciting horse that could do really well as a stare. He was 4th to Jan Bruegel in the St. Leger, 4th in the Derby. Everything Davy said I would 100% agree with. I have no interest in any of the other horses, aside from Al Nair I like, but he has to give weight to everything, so that's going to make life hard on him. Forever Young is look, obviously Romantic Warrior is the class act in the Saudi Cup. He has to prove he handles the dirt. Forever Young will handle it. Will he appreciate the cut back and trip? I'm not so sure. So I've gone for a bit of a value play with Factor Cheval, the French horse. He was given a proper French race in Dubai last time out, and the dirt there is far more attritional. And I think Miguel Barcelona was just very, very happy to let him experience the dirt, experience the kickback, learn from that, and then come for this race. If Romantic Warrior doesn't handle the surface, and if Forever Young doesn't appreciate dropping back a trip, this is the guy who can take advantage. So they're my pick 3.
I like it. Go ahead, Dave. You want to say something? I'll show mine on the screen.
Ascoli is shortening. It was 3.9 a minute ago. It's now 3.2. So the money's coming for it. Howard Wolowitz is out to 7.4. It was 6.6 a minute ago. So the final moves in the market are being made as we speak.
Interesting. My pick 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13. 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13 with 3-4 with 5, 7, 9 for $1. Guys, anyone knows this show, I'm not a big fan of turf sprints. I'm spreading. I don't trust. It's very trip dependent to me. I don't think the Japanese horse lays over the field. I could be wrong. When she wins by 5, I'll doff my cap to Emmet and say you guys are exactly right. I also like Continuous and Dira Mile we're going to talk about. And then I'm going 5, 7, 9, the 2 Japanese along with actually 3 Japanese I have in that race. And now that I look at it, I'm just a big fan of all of them. Guys, they're in the gate right now. We'll take Davy and Emmet off the screen. It is the 1351 Turf Sprint. Enjoy it from Saudi Arabia. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen.
She won over 1600 in the Victoria Mile this past year, but she showed a different dimension in the Breeders' Cup Mile at Del Mar when she sat up with the pace.
Yes, and kicked.
And from stall 9 and kicked, and then she just got swamped late by probably better milers than her.
Honest. Look at the market. She's always underestimated in the market. When she went the Victoria Mile, she was 208 to 1. When she ran 4th in the Breeders' Cup, she was 59 to 1, I think, and she's 14 to 1 here. This show has a few whiskers on, but it was 3.6 Ascoli Piceno. It's perfectly fair. 7.7 Anaf. There'll be plenty of takers at that price. 6.7 for Howard Wolowitz. And the other one who's attracting some money is Task Force, who's 12 for Varian and De Souza.
I would put Anaf in our 3. I mean, he's got the ideal draw inside, proven on the track, should close out well.
Ascoli Piceno, Anaf, 10 Happy Rolls and Richard Hoyles. He's in and away they head. And Anaf, traditionally not fast away, was one of the slow ones. Abigojo and also pushed forward the white cap of Uncle. And there is a dash early on. Win Marble is out wider. And also Marian, as there is plenty of pace. Ascoli Paceno is closer to the running rail, trying to preserve the position. Then Gomon on the inside of Abigojo and Byline. Witness stand with Task Force. Anaf is 2 from the tail with Dark Trooper. And 10 Happy Rose. Win Marble crosses to the lead as they head towards the exit from the back straight, leads by half a length. In second is Marian's green cap. Ascoli Paceno tracks on the inside. Howard Wolowitz is covering ground. 3 right and hanging out on the turn. Then in 5th place is Uncle. Behind these is Byline. Anaf poised but needs luck. Is trapped on the inside behind Gomon as they straighten. Then Byline, Task Force, Witness stand right around the outside. 10 Happy Rose still at the tail. Win Marble. It's opened up beautifully for Ascoli Paceno if he's close, if he's good enough. And he is in second place. Then weaving through on the inside is Gomon. Anaf trying to weave through. And Dark Trooper from a long way back. Win Marble. Ascoli Paceno gathered up by Christophe Lemaire with 200 to travel. Has a length and a half to find on Win Marble, who is not lying down. Ascoli Paceno is running out of ground. Gomon in third. Ascoli Paceno coming at Win Marble. They go for the line. Ascoli Paceno maybe in the final bound. Heads up, heads down. Win Marble. 10 Happy Rose. Behind those was Uncle all the way back to Witness stand. Christophe Lemaire's body language.
Wow, this is really close here. They're showing the replay. I think the outside horse got it. Yes, on the bob. Emmet Kennedy with the call. Boy, she won by a mile. Emmet, no, she won by a nose. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't matter. What a game effort by the 10 horse, who none of us really loved that much. Very aggressive, good ride by Win Marvel. But the number 12, Ascoli Paceno, Christophe Lemaire, with unbelievable timing. Let me bring Davy Lane on also. Christophe Lemaire, there he is again. Boy, he needed every inch of that 1351, Emmet, but got there, got a beautiful trip in behind. I got to tell you what, I didn't think she was getting there really until I wasn't even sure at the very end.
I'll be honest, I thought she was going to get there, and maybe that's because, excuse my language and for lowering the tone on your show, but that's because Christophe Lemaire is so. That's because Christophe Lemaire is so cool he can piss ice cubes. He's just ice cold. He rides her with supreme confidence, knowing she's the best horse in the race, knowing she's going to get there.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he was up against a rival who was not stopping at all. That is a monstrous run from Win Marvel. The Japanese absolutely dominate this contest, and his jockey, he's given him a blinder from that impossible draw in 12 as well. He got a great position. He's given him a superb ride. His heart's been broken, but it's been broken by the best horse in the race. Oh, she's good. She's real good.
She's really good. I don't know. I'll have to watch again. These Davey, I don't want to get into this because I really do appreciate all the work that these producers and editors and camera people do. These jump cuts, and if you don't know what a jump cut is, I have journalism background, so does Emmet. A jump cut is when they keep switching the angles back and forth. Maybe I'm just an American, knucklehead punter, but guys, I hate it. Just show the damn pan.
No, you're right.
You can't tell what's going on behind. I have no idea who's checking setting. It's just completely ridiculous. I don't know what the plan was. I'm watching the replay, Davey. I don't know what the plan was with 10 Happy Rose, who finished like 8 back. You got to go, man. Like they decided to take back and try to finish. It clearly didn't work out. 10 Happy Rose had no chance.
Yeah, worried about the draw, Probably seen what went on.
But that's you got some, I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah, but you got to be proactive. You got to be proactive. If you know what your draw position is, if you're just gonna ride to the draw position and sacrifice your position, then there's no point in even going. You got to go forward. You got to try.
If that's the case, Emmet, then when you draw 13, just drop out of the race. I mean,
exactly.
When I say drop out, I mean don't run, not obviously go to the back of the pack. I mean, she had no chance. Davey, maybe that's a horse you put in your stable and you play back next time in the right spot, right? Because now the form is dirtied up, Davey. This is exactly things that punters, handicappers need to pay attention to.
Right, for sure. But, there was never a doubt, someone in the comments said Iro, but, Lemaire was supremely confident throughout because he knew he had the good draw and he knew he had the horse who had the stamina too. So he knew that if he had to chase one down, he would be getting there close. It would be... And he had difficulty. The horse was outside. I don't know. One of the Saudi horses was pretty crazy right throughout.
Yeah.
Ascoli kept calm, and then he pulled him out. And that's the difference. That's why you follow the best jockeys, because they time things really, really well. They really time things. Frankie Dettori. This is part of the game.
We've got. Let's talk about two things, then we're gonna take a quick break, guys. First of all. And I want to show. I won, by the way.
My pick six came in. 4 horses on President's Day and 2 today. So I have a nice.
Congratulations,
well
Davy.
Done, Davy. Well done.
Really nice done, Davy. We have not only do we have great fans in the U.S., but also throughout places in the world, like in Latin America, we've got La Reserva Rabena, La Reserva Rabena. Vamos Código. He likes Código in the big one coming up. Thank you, La Reserva. Thanks for joining the show.
La siento, no hablo mucho español, but vamos.
There you go.
Vamos.
Muy bien. Yeah, hablo poco español, pero no recuerdo mucho. Let me show something, guys, before we take our break. Did someone really hold on a second, I got to find it here. Did someone crush their late pick 3? Yes. Emmet Kennedy alive with his $10 pick 3. Look, you got to, if you're going to single a horse, I don't care what odds, you got to get it home. That's huge for you, Emmet. I don't know if you you don't have to tell us, but you're a man of your word. I'm assuming you played your own pick 3, and I hope you did. I hope you did this one, because you're alive with a nice single there.
Yeah, I did, and I did what we call on the Final Furlong podcast a scumbag each way lucky 63. As well, so it's like it's our version of the multiple bet. So it's Highland, Caliph, the name of this horse. We've got Straight No Chaser was in there as well. It's going on to Continuous, and it's going on to Factor Cheval. So I've got 2 to go.
Ooh, very nice. Good luck with that. Great job.
Highland was. You might have seen me pull some odd faces a little bit earlier on, about 3:35 during the big handicap chase at Kempton, and that's because I was watching him all the way back in the field, tactically poorly positioned as Sam Thomas's runner got first run on him, and the horse ends up finishing second. So I pick up some of the scraps for a place, but he was never in with a chance of winning, given the way the race panned out. So I was in the torture chamber watching that race.
I apologize. Real quick before we take our break, where do you go with this Japanese filly now? I mean, might they campaign her in Europe, or is that asking? Well, obviously it's not asking too much. She's classy. Where do you go with her? She's a weird distance. Is she good enough to win cracking mile races against top, horses in the UK or in Europe? I'm not so sure. I guess we might find out though.
If she's mine, I would bring her to Royal Ascot for the fillies race on day 2, the mile fillies race. Oh, Davy, what's it called again? It's the race done till 1 back-to-back.
No, that's a 2-year-old race, right?
No, that's the mile. You're right. It's a fillies race, but it's a 3-year-old mile 4 race. There's a 1 mile race on day 2 of Royal Ascot. That's the race I'd be going for with her.
All right, Davy, would you agree with that, or maybe bigger aspirations, or is that big enough?
Maybe that's big enough, but I think they can take the pick. I think the anything's possible in Europe over a mile for this, up to a mile for this horse for sure.
Okay, I'll tell you what, guys. The Japanese. I mean,
it's the Duke of Cambridge. Sorry, Harris. The Duke of Cambridge stakes. I'd bring her over for that.
Yeah,
guys, it's really. We'll talk about this after the break. It's just if you're not paying attention to the Asian racing. I mean, what the Japanese have done, Emmet and Davy, especially in the last 4 or 5 years. They're just winning everywhere. It's absolutely incredible. These are not a bunch of, a bunch of Group 3, handicap horses. They're beating. I mean, we'll see what happens later on here today. But hats off to the Japanese.
If I could just very briefly say, Howard, sorry to rudely cut across you. I interviewed Gerald Lyons 2 years ago. I interview him every year, and I'll have him on the show again soon. Breeders' Cup winning trainer Gerald Lyons.
Look at the name drop from Emmet.
Yeah, just clang name drop there. I'll pick that one up in a second. But the reason I mentioned that is because he was talking to me about his classic winner, his 2,000 guineas winner, being sent over to Japan. to be a stallion. And his entire point was, you've got all these Godolphin middle distance horses that are being sent to Japan, and then you look at what the Japanese are doing, not only winning the middle distance races, but now also winning the sprint and the mile races. He said, yeah, we're the world leaders for now. We are ceding ground to them constantly as we have more of an emphasis on precocious speed, and they have more of an emphasis on stamina. I said, we need to be very careful of that. And he's been proved to be right.
Excellent. And listen, something else, the world changes very quickly. On the blog a couple of weeks ago, it was the Indian Derby. I put out some, people couldn't bet it, but I put a blog post out for some horses, and the Sunday Silence line is over in India now, because they've been buying some of the horses from Japan, and then the Indians lately in the last couple of years have been buying Group 2 and 3 winners from the UK, so they're building up things. So you could be sitting here in 10 years' time, where the British and Irish racing is basically a boneyard, and all the money and all the top jockeys are riding in India, not just for one weekend, but like fairly regularly, something like this. And Qatar.
Davy, we're losing greyhound racing in Wales. That's a knock-on effect. The BHA issued a statement saying, basically, sucks for them, we're all right. No. If greyhound racing is going, then racing is going. That's a very clear and evident thing. No fight against affordability checks from British racing's leadership. None whatsoever. Imagine that. Imagine, Howard, you living in the United Kingdom and you being dictated to about what you can do with your own money. Imagine if somebody was to try and say to Davy Lane, you and me, and all the people watching this show, imagine we're all in a pub in the UK and the barman comes over to us and says, lads, you're after spending £150. Did you spend £150 last week on drink? I don't think that's actually very fair, lads. I think you're going to have to mind yourselves for the night. Screw you. We live in a democracy. We can decide what we want to do. If I want to get blind drunk, I'll go and get blind drunk. That's my responsibility as an adult. But that's what's happening in the UK. That's we've lost greyhound racing in Wales. You're not allowed to gamble your own money. And you think that British racing is going to survive that. And in the meantime, you've got people laughing and scoffing about some Coolmore or Godolphin horse that's being picked up in India. Well, you're not going to be laughing too much when those horses end up dominating the global stage. Nobody thought Japan could do this. They're dominating the global stage. Hong Kong has the best racehorse in the world, who we're going to see a little bit later on tonight. Australian racing gets stronger every single year. And where are they getting their best horses from? From us. We're losing them to Australia. It's a farcical. It's absolutely farcical what's going on here.
Because we haven't modeled.
Wow. Emmet for president. There we go. All right.
I'd be the worst president ever, but it'd be fun though.
Now, I appreciate the hot take, Davey. We'll let you talk about it after the break here. We're going to take about a 3-minute break. So I'm in Chicago here. I see about 10:23. We're going to come back around 10:26, 10:27, 10:28. Cool. About 4 or 5 minute break here. We'll give everyone a chance to use the facilities, get a beverage, whatever you got to do. Go yell at the neighbor outside. Emmet might do that. I don't know about horse racing. and where I'll show you where I can put my money right there, baby. We'll take a little break. We'll come back. We got 2 races left, ladies and gentlemen. We're very excited to talk about those. It's the Red Sea Handicap, followed by the big one, the $20 million Saudi Cup. Thank you very much for joining us on the HHH Racing Podcast. We will be back in about 5 minutes, everyone. Stay tuned. Thank you. All right, we are back here on the HHH Racing Podcast. Very soon I'll be joined again by Davy Lane and Emmet Kennedy. This is your host, Howard Kravets. We are having live coverage of the 2025 Saudi Cup card. We have 2 more races left. A very exciting win there from the Japanese filly in the 1351 turf sprint. Now we're coming up to 2 very big races. What we'd really appreciate, everyone, once again, is please make sure you hit that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. That'll help us out tremendously on YouTube. We're trying to get to 5,000 subscribers. We need your help with that. Also, please make sure you hit the notification bell in the top right-hand corner and smash that like button below the video player. Let me bring on my fantastic punters and co-hosts and friends who've been doing yeoman's work this morning here live in the United States, in the afternoon in Europe. Mr. Davy Lane and Mr. Emmet Kennedy. There we go. We switched you guys. Let's go back to where we were. There we go. Go back to where we were before. How about that? All right, guys. 2 more races left. And I'm playing one of my bigger bets of the day in this race in the Red Sea. And it's going to be a double, which I'm going to talk about, a daily double. 1 horse, very simple, smash a double, 1 horse here into 1 horse in the next race, which we're going to get into. The Red Sea Handicap, guys, is a big race. It is $2.5 million US. It is Group 2. It's about 1 mile and 7/8. So let's see, 2 miles would be, what would that be? Well, math, 3,200. So it's 3,100, I believe, meters, 1 mile and 7/8, somewhere around there. This is a very good race with one particular horse that we have to talk about quite a bit. And I'm very interested, guys, to look at the market right now for the first time, because I know there's a horse that we'd like quite a bit that maybe we can get some value, but I don't know. We're going to see. Oh, no, forget the value, guys. The horse we like right now is 6-5 in the Whirlpool, but you know what you can do, what you can do. Dave, did you want to make a comment there, or
quickly on the previous race, Win Marble ended up having a green lamp, which meant its price as they were going into the gate was about 14.0. By the time they went off, it was 9.7. So there was money. There was people who knew.
We know that drop in odds very well because we don't have fixed pricing here in almost anywhere in the United States, and people are very aggravated by those kind of sudden drops. So the horse didn't win, but obviously they always know Emmet, don't they? It's just crazy. Someone knows something. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but I would say I didn't bring it up earlier on, but Spirit Dancer was backed from 10-1 into 4-1 just before the off and bombed out. So it doesn't always pan out, but it can be very frustrating when you see this stuff. By the way, just on a side note, in a jumps race in Ireland today, the first race of the day, 200-1, 125-1, 100-1, 66-1, backed all the way into 8-1, and 1 doing handstands. Well done to those connections.
Wow.
I did not get the call.
That is incredible. Red Sea Handicap, guys. Let's talk about it. We got 18 minutes to post. So we're going to be a little bit quicker here. Let me bring up the field. It's a very good field. I got to bring this on safe. It's a good field. You got Trafalgar Square on the inside, which is an interesting horse because there is a horse that is running, I believe, in the United States that I saw at Trafalgar Square in the form line. I can't recall the horse now, but I'll see if I can remember. There's a horse running in the United States today that ran against Trafalgar Square. I think it's in one of the imports for Christophe Clement, if I recall. But I'll have to take a look at that. Anyway, this is a French horse who draws the rail, and we can see how important draws can be. 7-1. Let's first talk about Deer a Mile. This is a horse I'm interested in, guys. This is one of 2 horses that we all have in our pick 3s. A little bit, I don't know about cold on the board, but 11-1. What I like personally, guys, this horse is completely unexposed. Has been in Group 1s, was very good in the English St. Ledger at Doncaster in September. Has been off a while, sharp connections, and this is a Camelot who's just turned 4. The sky's the limit, I think, for this horse. This could be the one that upsets, in my opinion. Davey, what say you about Deer a Mile?
I'm surprised it's cold on the board, Howard. I mean, it was kind of second or third favorite. No.
Well, this is, that's the Whirlpool. Let's take a look at the UK markets here. as we're doing this live. Let me see. What do you guys got there with Deer a Mile? Any money or
5
not?
to 1, I'm saying.
Yeah, so
6 to 1. He's
I mean,
got out to
third
6.
choice. So I don't know about the cold part. Maybe cold in the whirlpool. I think Davy's having some trouble. I meant with a little technology. What does that tell you? That English punters are just smarter, or and the rest of the world is stupid? Or I mean, what do you make of that?
Not necessarily, because the English punters were the ones who were coming for, or the English and Irish, I should say. It was the odds checker I was looking at. They were the ones who were coming for Spirit Dancers. So somebody thought something about Fahy's horse, and it obviously didn't pan out at all. For whatever reason, I don't really understand why he'd be called here. He's got a lovely low draw. If you look at some of the races he was running in last year, he couldn't win them. He couldn't beat City of Troy in the Derby. He wasn't really a realistic chance to go and beat Jan Bruegel in the St. Leger, and yet he's only beaten 7.5 lengths by City of Troy in a race that didn't really pan out particularly well for him. His next start, he was taking on Sea of Roses. I know he sent off favourite for that race. It was a class drop to a listed race, but he was dropping back down to 1 mile and 3. He ran well, and his run in the St. Leger was huge. Jan Bruegel is a totally unexposed, very lightly raced horse. He's only had 4 lifetime starts. That's a horse who's going to be a big player this season. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do. Controversially ruled out of running in the Melbourne Cup by the Australian authorities for whatever reason, but didn't run afterwards. But still, he's a very, very exciting racehorse. He should improve for the step up and trip. He's got a lovely draw. His trainer, Owen Burrows, is somebody I have a lot of time for, and his jockey, Jason Watson, is a class act as well. There's a lot of upside to Deer a Mile, and as you said, crucially, unexposed.
Very important, Dave, before I talk, and for you American punters, there's a horse that won, a filly that won on Breeders' Cup Day on the undercard, who wired the field. Her name was Rakaya. That name might sound familiar to American punters. Rakaya came back, gentlemen, and ran on Pegasus World Cup Day at Gulfstream in January. And Rakaya was in the filly and mare Invitational. She didn't run quite as well as she ran in Del Mar. My point is that those of you that are familiar with Rakaya, who's now trained by Todd Pletcher, we used to be trained by a gentleman named Owen Burrows, who is the trainer of Deer a Mile. Just want to point that out. Davey, what say you about Deer a Mile, who, as you were off screen, 5 to 1 in the UK Irish market, 10 to 1 Whirlpool. Big difference.
Well, that shows you that the British punters know something and they're playing it, and that maybe the Hong Kong punters and the American punters don't. So that's a good clue, Howard. That's probably telling you something, that the horse is.
Yeah, we have to take that as a positive, no?
Yeah, I would say so. Because Deer a Mile is not necessarily one of those horses that most of the English punters are playing in the National Hunt game and the steeplechasers right now.
Sure.
But it's not one of the well-known horses. It's not like something that, the guy delivering the flowers or the milkman will know about. So the fact that it is that price in the market tells you that the stable staff, the people involved, people I think has a chance.
Yes,
So
I would agree. I think this horse is very interesting. You got Epic Poet. Now, some of these horses are coming out of the race last year, I believe, but we'll get into that. El Nair, 11 to 1 morning, 11 to 1 live, 5 to 1 morning line. Make the morning line of it what you will. Dave, you're chuckling a little bit, or maybe I'm misreading you. Thoughts on this horse, who you and I are using, or we are playing this horse. We're using this horse in our group pick 3 that we didn't tell everyone about, but between myself and Phil Edwards. Tell us why you're chuckling, Dave. 11 to 1.
I was chuckling about something completely different, because I have played the Saturday races, and these horses were pre-race 1 to 5, 1 to 4, and they finished up 1 to 2 and stuff. So value in the end. But another completely other unrelated thing. This horse is announced itself as being in the higher echelons of these distance races quite recently. It was always knocking on the door, and it knocked out some big heavy hitters, including Dermot Wells, much touted Harbour Wind, Newmarket last year. I mean, that horse was going to be aimed at the Melbourne Cup himself. It was only a short head defeat to Vauban at York over the 2 miles. So it's right there for the big long distance races. Of course, it was slapped around by Kyprios in the Ascot race, the Champions Day, which is a meeting I don't really pay that much attention to. I find it's a bit of a damp squib at the end of the year in October. But the horse is there or thereabouts. But whether he's on the Group 1 level of the continuous and Jeremiah, I don't know. But
well, Godolphin's had a fantastic run in Dubai. Obviously, this horse does have to carry 137, so I know weight is something that we don't talk about a lot in the States, to be honest, because we don't have a lot of handicaps. But it should be. It's worth mentioning. Now,
it is worth mentioning because how does a horse like Alnair have 3 pounds more than a horse like Continuous? Ridiculous.
Let's ask Emmet Kennedy that question. Now, Emmet. One of the reasons why I think weight is not really considered much in the United States, there's 2 reasons. One, we don't have a lot of handicaps, and 2, we don't run a lot of races over 1.5 miles, frankly. And so, obviously that is a factor also. Obviously, the more a horse has to run, the more the weight matters. I am a high school math teacher, of course, for 28 years, and I understand a lot of things in the world related to math and numbers and whatnot. We can have a whole separate argument on another time on how much 5 pounds matters over a certain distance. There obviously have been studies. I have my feelings one way or the other, but Continuous is getting some weight in this race. The 3 of us talked about it. This horse has lost, let me count here, do a little math. In the last 3 races has lost by 34 plus lengths, yet is 6-5 right now live. Why is Continuous going to roll in this race, in our opinion?
Well, one of the best jockeys to ever do it in jumps racing, Ruby Walsh, said weight has no bearing on a horse race. Now, he said that at a Cheltenham preview a few years ago, so maybe he doesn't actually subscribe to that theory anymore, but he said if the horse is good enough, they'll carry the weight and give it away. So that's just a very brief, succinct assessment from one of the best jockeys. In terms of Continuous, look, my whole angle with this to you guys yesterday was I was amazed he was in this race, and I was amazed that he's still with Coolmore, trained by Aidan O'Brien, and that Ryan Moore's heading over for the ride. Why? Because they've got Illinois, they've got Jan Bruegel, they've got Kyprios. They are loaded in the staying division. They don't need another staying horse. Tower of London is still knocking around as well, the winner of this race and in Meydan last year and in Ireland too. Why are you persisting with Continuous as a 5-year-old in the staying division? Because you know he's going to come back and you know he's going to win races. This is a classic winner who could be siring national hunt mares right now, or you could have sold him off to somebody in France who'd happily breed from him. And yet they're keeping going with him. His performance in the St. Leger and his subsequent run in the Arc, where actually he was a little bit unlucky behind Ace Impact. I'm not saying he would have won, but he would have been closer to him had he got a clearer run, is miles clear of everything he's taken on in this race. Trust Your Instinct ran all right in the previous race. He beat him over an inadequate 10 furlongs earlier in the season. When he went to Paris-Longchamp, when he was prepping for his Arc run, he was only beaten 2 3/4 lengths that day. From what I understand, he wasn't fully fit, and they'd had a lot of issues with him. He didn't come out until Royal Ascot and the Hardwick Stakes. And if you remember last year, just a bit of a disaster for Aidan O'Brien. Most of his horses all needed their first run of the season, no matter what point of the year it was. And then the Arc itself was just a complete nightmare. But Shin Emperor has proved that you can disappoint in the Arc, come out and not really have it affect you. And then his last 2 races were basically afterthoughts. They've taken him to the Champions Day. That's never a race. The Champion Stakes is a race Aidan O'Brien's only ever won once. It's just never a target for Coolmore. The Arc and the Breeders' Cup Turf and Classic, they're the main races. Champions Day is an afterthought for Coolmore. And taking him to Hong Kong, you're basically just rolling the dice. It's not a bad run behind Givolato. If he's right, he's in a completely different league to this lot. And the fact that he's been backed tells me that he is.
Yeah. And I'm looking at
Davy, I know you agree. You can talk quickly about that, and then I got to talk about some.
I endorse everything he said, and that's I couldn't agree more. And I'm watching him in the paddock right now, and he looks fantastic.
He does.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Really he just drifted up to 3-2. Let me ask you guys a question. We know thousands and thousands of people watch this podcast, guys, and we don't want to lower the price. We don't want to talk too well about this horse because we're going to lower the price. But in all honesty, Davey, if you were to play a win bet, what's the lowest odds you would take on Continuous in this race? Would you take evens on this horse?
Yeah, I would. I think he's a certainty. Yeah.
Wow. Emmet, you agree with that? You would take even money here?
Yeah, I made a mistake because he was 11-4 this morning, and like an idiot, I didn't take the price. I did the bet in person, and he's continuing to shorten. And if we're going to influence the market, then I should say, "Oh, he's got no chance. Lay him. Take him." He's just different league to this lot. He will win, and the very fact that he's still a Coolmore horse is telling you that. Now, there's a slight concern in the back of my mind, and that is the tight turns of the track. How's he going to handle those? but it's Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. There is no
Yes.
need to stress here. This horse is just going to go and win. This is going to be a nice little bit of a show. The big danger is Dira Mile. Spoiler alert: the danger is Dira Mile. If Epic Poet is beating Continuous, I might just log off. I might just
Oh no!
go and
well, we can't have that, Emmet. We can't have that.
go and take a
Oh my
walk.
goodness!
Try and embrace
okay, yeah,
nature.
you can take a little walking. Take a little
few
walking.
deep
Come
breaths.
back. All
and a
right.
considerable amount of whiskey to be consumed as well. Like if Epic Poet is beating Continuous, something's very wrong.
I mean, Emmet, Newport Lights on the bottom of the screen said, Howard, this live broadcast is very enjoyable. If Emmet Pogue wins, Newport Lights is not going to watch the show anymore, Emmet. I mean, come on now. We can't have that.
For Newport Lights, I'll stay, but only for Newport Lights.
Hey, quick question, Davy, from Matt Majunkin. Yeah. Will Ireland and the UK just turn into the breeding ground for the rest of the world's horses, based on your conversation from before the break?
Yeah, maybe it is already,
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you feel that way right now?
I think Coolmore are of vital importance in breeding, and we've just lost the Aga Khan, God rest him. I know, different religion, but he was a huge supporter of Irish racing. You can't lose these people and expect that racing is just going to continue as it was. He was a massive supporter of the Irish tracks as well, and a huge supporter of the breeding industry. So we need Coolmore, but the problem with needing Coolmore is they're becoming a little bit too dominant. There's not really a whole, like Aidan O'Brien just crushes everything. Anybody who was able to challenge him, like Jim Bulger and Dermot Weld, with the greatest respect, are being pushed to one side. And the massive influx of ownerships, like Watan Racing, that's great, but they have their own ideas and their own allegiances to the Middle East. Sheikh Mansour has decided to go and buy loads of horses in France. That's fantastic. That's great for French racing. It's not so good for us. The racing is becoming more global, but that's not good for Ireland, and it's not good for Britain.
We got 5 minutes, guys. Racing downwind is David Duncan. Great guy. He said that Epic Poet's actually taking some money, dropping from 8.8 to 6.8. So we'll see. Chris Couples, who's another fantastic handicapper, fan of the show, said he's cashing out my 401k, his retirement money, to double up on Continuous. Wow.
Oh, no,
good luck, Chris. Yikes. Not sure I would do that. But I'll tell you what, guys. I don't always like to do things like this because I don't want too many people piling on to like my favorite bet, only because I might not get quite the price, but people can do whatever they want with their money. I got something that I am a little bit surprised of, and I know our good friend Matt Miller might be listening. I have to do this. I'm actually looking down right now at my ADW. The reason why I'm not looking, because I want to make a bet. I wanted to look into the double, that one race into the next race, of Continuous into Romantic Warrior. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I love that double here. That double, as of about 5 minutes ago, was 19-1. 19-1 Continuous into Romantic Warrior. Forever Young in the double pool, guys, was a massive favorite. Now, I don't know how that's going to translate in a whirlpool situation, but in the whirlpool double will pays, in other words, what the prices will pay going forward, Forever Young was a massive favorite. Davey, go ahead.
Yeah, Green Lamp, Dara Mile, now into 8.8 from where he was before, which was what, 12.0. Yeah. So he's more than 25% drop in his price in the last minute since you were talking.
Interesting.
This race is real simple. Continuous wins, Dara Mile finishes second. It's real easy.
But just hit the exact third, right? Play the 3-4. Guys, we got 3 minutes to post. I think we covered. Now, Continuous is drawing a little bit outside. No, I guess
7,
he's okay.
Isn't it?
He's in 7, should be fine. Where do we expect Continuous to be in this race, Davey? And then we'll get into the we'll play this out.
I think he rides on the pace from his draw. I don't think he's not going to be closing. He's going to be, he's going to be sitting about 3 or 4, one out. He won't be.
Okay. And Emmet, we've not really seen a lot of deep closers win today, even on the turf, for whatever reason. It hasn't happened yet.
No, we haven't, and Ryan Moore will be alive to that, I would imagine, Howard. So
yeah.
I'm guessing whoever makes the running, Al Nahir maybe, whoever makes the running, he won't be far away from them.
As I speak, 15-1, but I'll still take that. I mean, if it's like 12-1, I would take that. The double.
You're not
again,
getting anywhere near that. You can't get. You cannot get 15-1 about that here. That's huge.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll see what it ends up. And by the way, and I am against this horse. This is the wonderful thing about will pays that here in the U.S. we can take a look at it. Rall and Roll is taking quite a bit of money in the double in the Saudi Cup, and I'm completely against Rattle and Roll today, which is the only U.S. based horse running. So we will see. Chris Couples is also playing the double, but he's playing in the Rattle and Roll. So we'll see. I know, boy, there's a lot of El Código love right now from Enzo Caposcale. What's up, Enzo? How you doing? A lot of El Código love, Davy, from the South, from the Latin American fans in the
Not
next
surprised.
race.
I just want to put a quick bet on Howard. I haven't read your tip sheet today. So what was your play of the day in one of these places? I want to make a treble.
You mean in Saudi?
Are we allowed to give that out if you're not a subscriber? I don't want to.
Oh no worries. It's not in the tip sheet. I didn't go into great detail with the Saudi Cup. I'm just saying I'm playing. I already put it. I played a relatively big double for me right here with continuous into Romantic Warrior. Now I know Emmet's a little bit against Romantic Warrior. We'll talk about that in the next race, guys.
What tracks were on your tip sheet today? Gulfstream and where else?
Oaklawn, which is not till Sunday, not till tomorrow, Davey, because of the weather.
Did you was it Sandman that you were touting or not?
Man Child, I liked at Santa Anita, but that's tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. All right.
Okay. Guys, they're going into the gate. Any final thoughts, you guys? Continuous or deer a mile would be great for both of us. I'll take chalk here. I see 2-1 in the whirlpool. Wow. What? 2-1 now. Continuous drifted up, guys. Hello, win bet too. Hold on.
It's Jeremiah is 7.6.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take you guys off the screen. Everyone enjoy the Red Sea handicap. We are all over the number 3 continuous in this big $2.5 million race live from Saudi Arabia. Enjoy the sound of the Red Sea.
Is closing, and any idea that I was going to sneak a double-figure price for David Amara's runner is now very, very full on.
We should actually just mention that the 2-horse Gregory, for all that we've maligned him, he's had the ultimate equipment change coming into this. They pulled sticks. He's a gelding.
Since last year. Gelded and headgear.
Wow, yeah. Maybe that, and given his quirky nature the last couple of years, maybe that will make a bit of a difference, as continuous is not quite chuffed into going into the starting stall.
Put it this way, I think Gregory's connections this time last year would have not have envisaged him running in any handicaps. Absolutely not. They would have been looking to travel in Group 1 and Group 2 company for most of the season. Now he's going to have to be that kind of good still to win. But all sorts of angles, gelded and headgear for continuous. It's Rian and Aiden, for Gregory. It's Rian and Aiden for continuous. It's the weight of money for Epic Poet. It is Rehan, who ran so well in this race last year. Quick summary. I'm Epic Poet. Tom?
Al-Nayir for me.
Al-Nayir and Rachel?
I'm going to go with Byzantine Dream.
Richard, here we go. Red Sea time.
Goes in. All clear has been given behind, I think. A little bit slow was Dare a Mile, who requires some rousting. Epic Poet is often held up. Presage Nocturne are both switched in behind. So early on, Al-Nayir is quite well to the fore. And Year of the Dragon in the striped colours in the noseband. And the orange jacket of Pridwin is going forward, with Gregory wider out and Jack Red Cloud. So they're preparing to make the first of several turns. Trafalgar Square on the running rail, reefing and tearing, is right up there and proving a difficult ride for Silvestre de Souza. Gregory's out wide with Pridwin, whose rider glances across to try and get in. Al-Nayir, and held out wide as well, is Jack Red Cloud on the outside of Year of the Dragon. Dare a Mile's been very awkward, along with Trafalgar Square, who's still throwing the head from side to side. Having missed the start, Dare a Mile is now also very keen in midfield. Green headgear, 3 from the back is continuous, and behind these is Epic Poet, and last of all Byzantine Dream. So it is Gregory who's gradually made the way over under James Doyle. Still Trafalgar Square has got no cover, 3/4 of a length back, being restrained with Pridwin, as now the pace has steadied notably. Towards the outside is Jack Red Cloud, who races in 4th place on the outer of the red and white colours of Al-Nayir. And then towards the inner, Presage Nocturne, Dare a Mile with continuous. Ryan Moore taking notably closer order. Once that pace steady, purple and white colours. One that has lost a place or two is Year of the Dragon as they turn away, and still Epic Poet and also Byzantine Dream are towards the tail. So making the turn away, Gregory it is who has the lead. From Pridwin on the inside is Trafalgar Square continuing to race keenly. Al Nair comes next, just ahead of Jack Red Cloud, who's 3 wide. Presage Nocturne on the rails. Continuous comes next. Dare a Mile is still a bit awkward amongst them. And then towards the outside, Year of the Dragon, and still Epic Poet watches on with Byzantine Dream at the back. So into the back straight they head. They've completed the circuit and we're past halfway. Gregory it is who has the lead. Pridwin is dropping out very quickly and is being eased down and pulled up. So Pridwin is out of the race as Gregory leads by 2 lengths. Trafalgar Square is in second place. Al Nair on the outside of Presage Nocturne dispute third. 5th place then for Jack Red Cloud. Dare a Mile and Continuous are now side by side. Year of the Dragon still wide and still sitting and suffering at the back. Danny Tutto on Epic Poet, who will need luck on the inside of Byzantine Dream. So Gregory's dictated this for a best part now of 1,000 metres. Trafalgar Square's exertions now as he drops back through the field. Continuous manages to avoid him, but out in the lead it's Gregory winding it up. Presage Nocturne running a big race. Al Nair, Dare a Mile, despite his antics at the start, is right in there pitching. And then Ryan Moore moving forward, Continuous. Byzantine Dream in the stripes and Epic Poet are both making ground, but both need luck. Gregory claimed by Presage Nocturne. Al Nair, Byzantine Dream unleashed by Oisin Murphy. Epic Poet trying to squeeze through. Continuous didn't match the speed of Byzantine Dream, who it is who's moved through the lead. Byzantine Dream takes over with 200 to go. In second place, Presage Nocturne. Epic Poet didn't get the same breaks and he's now out after the leader. But Byzantine Dream, Oisin Murphy seized the Red Sea turn. It opened up for him, but it didn't for Epic Poet in second. Continuous third, Presage Nocturne. Then Al Nair, Dare a Mile.
Oh boy. Oh, I think we just lost Emmet Kennedy. I think we put an SOS out on Emmet Kennedy. Attention, Emmet Kennedy, please report to the to the emergency room. Oh boy. Wow, what a win by the number 5. Unbelievable. Oh boy. Emmet, you're gonna have to eat it, my friend. I don't know what to tell you.
I'm very, very glad I didn't lump on a match bet Continuous to be like, how?
I think,
Great
Davy,
one.
is that your sound there? You got to turn down, Davy. I think is that Davy, you want to turn your sound down in the background? I think that's you. There we go.
Now, yeah. There you go.
Okay. I loved where, by the way, Continuous drifted up to 7-2, which is just unbelievable. The odds really changed. Davey, you and I talked about the 5 a little bit in the last few days. We didn't love him, but we thought it was a bit interesting. I loved where Continuous was the entire race, guys. And then there was a point at the top of the stretch when Continuous angled out. I'm like, here comes the show. And when the 5, to use a harness racing term here in the States, or standard bred term, blind switched him. In other words, got to his outside and sort of beat him to the spot. Continuous just didn't quicken. I knew I was in a lot of trouble at that point.
Yeah, 100%. He was, in fact, I'm pretty sure Davy mentioned this horse last night in the sense that Oisin Murphy was riding him and that might make him intriguing. And we all kind of went, yeah, that's not a bad shout. That. And my whole line was, but maybe the reason he's riding him is because Oisin has that strong connection to Japan and he's just almost doing them a favor. It turns out they were doing him a favor and he was doing them one as well, I guess. It's a terrific performance. The horse did have the scope to improve. Certainly going up to this distance, and he's run away with it in the end. Epic Poet, I'd say Danny Tudhope would like to have this back. He's further back than he would have wanted to have been. He's had to wait, sit and suffer. And to be fair to the horse, when he finally does get a gap, he's had plenty of a turn of foot to go and put himself into it. It's just too much ground to make up against a horse who's got first run on him, given a really canny ride from one of the best jockeys in the world on the outside. And as for Continuous, he was well positioned in a race that has favored horses coming from off the pace. He just looked slow and slower than he has done. He's the kind of horse that's going to maybe cost me a little bit more money because I think you could stick with him next time, and next time he might come in. But that was a little bit underwhelming now in my mind that he got beaten there. I thought he should have won it. Great ride from Oisin Murphy, terrific performance. Disappointed that Continuous wasn't able to go through with it.
Yeah, Mike Fardell on the bottom of the screen had Epic Poet, who ran huge.
Well done.
Now
Well
that
done.
Chris has lost his retirement money on the bottom of the screen, he's wondering if we're hiring guys. So Chris, we got your number. We can hook you up. Sorry, man. Let's just I'm sure. Hopefully you didn't go too crazy with that horse. I didn't get a win bet on him, which I'm happy about. I did have for me, a pretty healthy double, which now I'm out of it. But look, I hate when handicappers and punters red board. If you're not familiar with that term, everyone at home, and Davy and Emmet, that's like basically saying, I told you so. Look, this is a very tough game. When you're wrong, you just got to say you're wrong. We were wrong. We had a lot of reasons why we'd like continuous. Dira Mile looked like he was sort of was rank and on the inside and uncomfortable. It just didn't work out for our top two. We were just wrong. What are you going to say, Davey?
Yeah.
Not much to add. Okay.
Well, I'll just say we've all had humble pie at one point or another, but having humble pie on a live stream tastes particularly vile. But when you've got to have it, you've just got to eat it. It's hand me some cream. We'll have the humble pie. Throw it in my face.
Look, we've had a lot of great wins on this podcast, live and otherwise. So, look, we'll take it. People, as we've said many times, once you make the bet, it's your decision, not our opinion. So, hopefully, I hope not too many people went down with our continuous ship, but it is what it is. Let's talk about Oisin Murphy for a second, Davey. I had the pleasure of meeting him at Saratoga last summer. We all know he's had some struggles personally in life, and appears that he's overcome them. That's exactly the kind of ride you get from a world-class rider. He saw the opportunity. He went a little bit early. I mean, if he loses that race to Epic Poet, Davey, by a neck, people will want to wring his neck, but that's part of the game. He took his chance on the turn, made a major move, and blew the field away. Won it right there.
Well, one thing about, we talk about horses getting fit and staying fit and doing stuff. Murphy's been riding in India and Qatar and so on. So he's the last 2 months, whereas if in the past he would have stayed in Ireland or England, he's been out in the hot weather and the sunny weathers, and he's been keeping fit and racing, keeping sharp. So he's, that's important. And he's excited with his win. I mean, it means a lot to him. And, he's the best jockey, and, him and Ryan Moore, the best two in Britain and Ireland at the moment.
Emmet, here we go again. Guess what? A Japanese horse wins, this time at 14-1. And I just wanted to let you know, because I looked at the odds. Epic Poet was also 7-2. If I would have told you that Epic Poet and Continuous before the race went off at the same price in the Whirlpool, what would you have said?
I'd have said you were insane and lost your mind, and I'd be calling the men in white coats as well, for that matter. Epic Poet, same price as Continuous.
Just looking at the Hong Kong board, there was green lamped, which means 25% in the last few minutes bet on the one Al Nair, on Gregory as well, on Dira Mile, on Pridwin, who went backwards, and on Epic Poet. No money came whatsoever for Byzantine Dream. It wasn't a mover in the market, which suggests that the Japanese just kept their face themselves to themselves.
I don't really know where that race came from. I mean, you look at the PPs. I mean, obviously had the right to improve second off the layoff as a 4-year-old, but I mean, it wasn't high class races, but to win this race by this amount is, I won't say it's shocking, but it's, a little surprising, I think would be fair to say.
Yeah, just go back to Oisin Murphy, Clang name drop again. I've had the privilege of interviewing him a few times. He's one of the nicest and most humble people in racing I've ever come across. And if that's an act, it's one hell of an act, because he keeps it up consistently. And I think the fact that he's had the problems he's had, look, nobody's perfect. We've all made mistakes and we've all had flaws. He's had to face that in the limelight, and he's had to basically rebuild himself a couple of times, which is a real difficult thing to do in sport. And each time he's done it with grace and dignity and class. And that's what Oisin Murphy is. He is an incredibly classy individual and a brilliant, brilliant rider. I think Ryan Moore is the best jockey in the world. Oisin Murphy is right there alongside him. And it doesn't matter what the distance is, what the surface is, what the country is. Oisin Murphy can ride the winner. And that's something I really, really admire about him. 4-time champion jockey. I asked him a couple of years ago when he was champion jockey for the second time, because Tony McCoy, 20 times jumps jockey in the UK is his neighbor. I said, is that something you have any aspiration to do? Just be champion jockey every single year? And he said, absolutely not. No way. It's a back-breaking thing. I don't want to be doing that. It takes too much out of you. And yet he was champion jockey the following year, champion jockey again last year. I don't think he can stop, and I really admire that about him.
I mean, and you know what it is about, and we have about 40 minutes to post, it looks like, or 36 minutes to the $20 million Saudi Cup, which I have a very big place in my heart for this race. We'll talk about that in a little bit. You know, the one thing about the horse racing community, and Emmet, we saw it fortunately and unfortunately with the horrible passing of a jockey, which I'll let you mention if you want in your neck of the woods in Ireland. But the one thing about the racing community, that not only is it a great community in general, but it's very loyal. And when you have a personal problem like Oisin Murphy does, and you lose those mounts and you lose some of those, connections, not easy to get them back. So for a guy to be off for a while, dealing with some personal demons, to come back and have the faith of the ownership and trainers is really saying a lot about the skill of that horseman, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's very well said, Howard. And I would echo every single thing you just said there. I'd also say that there is I want to be very careful with how I word this, because anybody who's struggling with mental health in any way should absolutely talk about it. Do not, from personal experience, do not bottle things up. It does you no favors whatsoever. But there is a slight hypocrisy in media in the sense that they're telling you constantly, talk, tell people about your problems. And yet when some people do express the fact that they've got a problem, they're then getting bashed by the media. Oh, he's mentally fragile. Oh, he's not quite good enough. So for him to have had the problems he's had and be able to come back and succeed in the way he has is an example of A, the work ethic he has, and B, how highly regarded he is by people in the racing community and those in the industry. And when you're going racing, like, it's very easy to become detached from the sport to a certain extent. We're sitting in 3 different living rooms in 3 different countries watching racing in the Middle East today. And you can look at it from an international aspect of things, where it's a millionaire's playground or billionaire's playground, and these horses are going for massive sums of money. But when you're at Goran Park Racecourse and you're looking at a horse that was bought for €500,000, this is the agricultural industry. That's where this all comes from. And it's all very local, and everybody knows everybody. Even the biggest trainers know the smallest trainers. The smallest trainers know the biggest people in media. The biggest people in media know the biggest people in racing. It's all interconnected. And it's only when you're actually there at the track and you see, whether it's a couple of hundred people at Punchestown the other day or 15,000 people at Goran Park last Saturday, a day before poor Michael passed away, you're reminded of just what an incredible sport this is and how tightly knit that bond is. And at the end of the day, it's a sport with a global interest that all comes back to the farming sector and the agricultural industry. And so it is actually a really small world that thankfully has this massive fan base. We've got all these people watching today, and we're so grateful for all of you who've chosen to spend your afternoon with us. But it's, I think that's one of the things.
The screen. Speaking of worldwide, can you read the bottom of the screen there from PA? Look where he's from. Go ahead, read it.
And I'm watching in Australia in support of J Mac. Shout
out
to the Aussies. Shout out to the Aussie crew.
What's up, mate? How are you doing? Thanks for joining the show. Davey, we got to get some more. By the way, bucket list trip for me is the Melbourne Cup, Emmet.
Yes,
so PA
absolutely.
And J Mac. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to mention that. So
we'll get
go ahead and finish your thought, Emmet, if you need to. Were you done with your thought?
No,
I'm sorry.
It's just it's so easy to look at this sport and just see Sheikh Mohammed is spending millions on horses and just think, oh yeah, it's a really detached sport. We could buy a racehorse, the 3 of us, for $5,000. Who knows where that horse will take us? That's the beauty of it. If the sport was as simple as you just spend $1 million on a racehorse, then it would be over very quickly. You could spend 10 grand on a racehorse and end up winning a classic. You could spend 10 million. Look at the horses, the most expensive racehorses in the history of bloodstock. Some of them didn't even win a race. That's what makes this sport so intriguing. And every single person, whether you're from a racing background, an equine background, a show jumping background, every single person is entitled to their opinion, and every single person can be right and every single person can be wrong. And that's the thing I love about this sport.
I agree. Good day, mate. By the way, we love people in Australia. Please make sure, I'll say this one more time because we have the most amount of people watching right now we've had all day. Again, this is the HHH Racing Podcast. I'm host Howard Kravets, along with the host of the Final Furlong podcast, Emmet Kennedy. I'm going to let him expound about that podcast in just a moment. We got Davy Lane, excellent punter from Liverpool, England, joining me as well. Please make sure you hit that.
who incidentally has had success on the HHA Follow the Jockey blog today with races from Australia as well. So it's just
Good
there you
man.
go. See,
Man, Davy.
maybe Saudi isn't working out, but there's always somewhere else in the world that we can crush our bets for sure, like Davy Lane is doing. Please hit that subscribe button on the bottom right hand side of the screen. You folks from Australia, come on, mates, hit that subscribe button, bottom right hand side of the screen, notification bell at the top right on YouTube. Excuse me, and smash that like button. Again, you have to do all that on YouTube. Davey, one question from the chat, and then we're going to get into the Saudi Cup race itself. From Sylvain. I think you know Sylvain. He's in our chat often. He's from Montreal, by the way, guys. Fantastic gentleman who follows the podcast I met personally. Pretty simple question, Davey. Why are the Japanese so damn good?
They're so good because they've spent time setting up the breeding of the horse, and they're also good because their tote system allows money to flow from the punters into the horse racing industry, and they have connections. They transcend the industry, so the sport connects to the country as opposed to being a niche. So, and they have a connection to the animals too. So on every level, not just from the horse stuff that we're deep into, but on other levels that they're focused on the well-being of the horse, and when the horse is well, the horses run well. I don't think our jurisdictions focus so much on the well-being of the horse, and therefore horses don't run as well so much because some of them aren't so well, you know.
Yeah, we are working on it here in the United States with something called HISA, if you gentlemen are familiar with that, which is a commission that is on the federal level that is sort of taken over and trying to clean up our sport here in the States. And frankly, I think overall they're doing a good job with it. That's another conversation. There's a horse named Sunday Silence, which if you're my age or maybe slightly younger, you know this horse. That was one of the first major U.S. successes that went over to Japan for breeding. They bought Sunday Silence, and since then it's just been an upward trend. It takes a while, but it's been a very positive upward trend, Sylvain, for not only Japanese but Hong Kong and other jurisdictions as well. Let me quickly talk about the Saudi Cup and why I like this day. And Davey, you and I have talked about this before, and I'm going to bring up something that's a little bit not the most comfortable conversation, but I'm just going to mention it for a minute. And Emmet, you don't know where I'm going, but you'll find out in a second. Over the years, we have once in a while I get regarding this day and regarding the Dubai World Cup day, but especially Saudi Cup day, I've gotten a few emails and comments from people, and it comes from a good place that, why are you covering Saudi racing? Saudi Arabia does this and that, culturally, right? And Davey, you and I have talked about this. Look, you don't have to agree with the culture or what the government believes in, whatever, but racing is worldwide. And Dave, you bet more worldwide than anyone I know. You don't have to love the government. You don't have to love some of the things they do or maybe some of the cultural aspects they espouse in. But the bottom line, Davey, this is a $20 million race. It's the biggest race in the world, money-wise. There's Group 1 horses running today. And it's something that I feel like this podcast should cover. And I mean, I'm not going to speak certainly for the Final Furlong podcast, but I think you can separate the two, Davey. You can disagree maybe with some of the things they do in Saudi Arabia while still enjoying the racing. Can't you, Davey?
Yeah, you can. And I was quite vocal anti-kingdom, if you will, and politically in the past for all of the reasons that are well known in terms of their gender issues and so on. But you actually mature a bit and you actually see that there actually has been changes in Saudi Arabia, and part of these races are a part of that. Now, whether they're still behind the curtain, things I don't agree with, that almost certainly. But there is a transition. There is a transition, and the country's changing, and people are changing. I mean, who knows? It might change for the worse again in the future. But for right now, it's maybe something that you can. By being a part of what they're trying to do, maybe you can direct it in one direction. I don't know. I'm still torn on that. I'm not totally comfortable with it.
I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot. You don't have to comment at all. But just any thoughts on what I just said in terms of betting or supporting racing in jurisdictions you don't agree with for other reasons?
Yeah, I'm very big into free speech, and that doesn't just mean that I'm supportive of free speech for people who agree with me. I'm supportive of free speech. If you want to criticize me, that's fine. I'll just hit the mute button on X and ignore what you're saying. If I strongly disagree with you, if you've got some criticism to say that makes sense, then that's fine. But I'm talking about like repulsive views. The not to go too political, but the free speech advocates in America used to literally campaign for far-right extremists to have the right to be able to express their views because they wanted them to give them so that people could see how repulsive they were and then be turned off by them and stay clear of them. You need that. So the very simplistic way I would look at this is, yeah, there's a lot of things that we can criticize various different countries and regimes in the Middle East for. Take a look at your own country.
Yeah.
Are you happy with how your country is run? Are you happy with the ethical decisions that the people who are in power in your country run? Do you think your healthcare system is fair? I'm not talking about America, by the way. I'm talking about my own country.
Yeah.
Look at how people are treated. Look at how people are cared for. Not really. So it's very easy to throw stones and cast out. Have a look at your own country.
Yeah,
We've all got problems.
There could be somebody in country X who turns around and says, "Why are you betting on American horses at the Breeders' Cup? Have you seen how many people are in prison over there?"
Look, I know. Exactly. Well, we gotta. We're gonna move on, guys. There's a comment from Rob. Rob, we appreciate your comment. I'm not gonna show it, but look, just because you're from, let's say, Ireland, it doesn't mean you agree with the Irish government. I live in the United States.
God,
that doesn't mean I agree with our government, Davy. Same thing, right? So this is we can talk about that. I just thought it's worth mentioning for at least 1 minute on this 3-hour podcast because it has come in the past. All right, guys, let's talk about the Saudi Cup. By the way,
shout out to Sylvian, by the way. Shout out to Sylvian.
Sylvian, shout out for the nice comment. And then PA from Australia. Big fan also of Zach Purton, who's an excellent rider out there as well. So anyway, there's great riding and racing everywhere. Guys, $20 million Saudi Cup. Here we go. Let's scroll through the field quickly with the odds. First of all, it's a Group 1. That's right. That's not a typo. 20 million US. It's the world's most richest race. I mean, guys, there's meat. There are entire meets that don't have purses of 20 million. It's crazy. It's a 1.1 miles on the dirt. It is a 1-turn 1.1 miles. And like I said, one of the main reasons why we're on the show, very quickly, 4 years ago, only about a month after this podcast started, with the 2021 Saudi Cup, it was the first time that I just started the show. I was just on X, and I touted out a horse called Mishrif at 16-1, who upset the Saudi Cup and beat a horse named Charlatan, who was the bee's knees at the time for Baffert. I got a lot of love on X. I got love from Matt Bernier, a lot of people. And I got to be honest, guys, in a weird way, Mishrif, who, of course, had a great career, really boosted this podcast and the Saudi Cup. So I'm always going to remember that. I just want to share that story. It's part of the reason why we cover this day. Ushbachasoro from the rail, the 10 horse is 37-1 right now. Intense for me in Argentine bred, 74-1. Just lost to El Código in the Carlos Pellegrini Group 1, the biggest race in Argentina and South America for that said. Romantic Warrior, wow, 4-5 right now.
Jesus.
Below odds on, which to me is crazy, to be honest, even though I love the horse. $22.8 million earned. Wow. I believe he is the highest rated horse in the world right now and has been for several months. He is just really special, but it's all been on turf. Keep that in mind. Wilson Tesoro, Japanese horse, 25-1. Very honest, not quite this class in general. You got a bomb in Wooten Sun, 100+1. Walk of Stars, a horse we're going to talk about. Very interesting. I know some people that like Walk of Stars a little bit, who has been very good on the dirt at Maidan, 17-1. There's Rail and Roll, 9-1. The only American entrant in the race, 2.3 million. Very likable sort. Already has won in the Middle East with a prep in the custodian 2 Holy Mosque Cup, won by 4 and did it well. Wait to excel, a monster local horse, a price. Ramjet, these odds are crazy. 41-1 on a progressive Japanese 4-year-old. He should not be 41-1. The number 7 has lost to Forever Young, twice, but last time only lost by 2 lengths. Musmak, I know Davy's going to talk about this horse, 70 to 1 right now. Might be the one who's going to show speed early and be on the lead, being completely disrespected right now by the punters. The Funded is 60 to 1. This is a former Bob Baffert horse, used to be in the United States, as you can see on the screen. Now racing in Saudi Arabia. I don't think he's good enough, but Fresu, a very good jockey now in the United States, who rides in California. There's Factor Cheval. I know Emmett's going to talk about this horse. Finished third in the Al Maktoum Challenge, one of the previews for this race and preview for the Dubai World Cup at 20 to 1 year end with Mikhail Barcelona. Emmet. El Codigo, 43 to 1. A lot of love and support for him from South American punters. There's Forever Young. Heartbreaking loss in the Derby, ran huge in the Breeders' Cup Classic, finishing third and won his prep for this race 5 to 2. There you go, guys. There's the field for the 2025 Saudi Cup. We're going to start in, again, more post-position order, guys, not the order of their saddle cloths. Let's first talk about Romantic Warrior. 3 to 5 morning line. I love this horse. I don't think dirt's going to be a problem, but I will say right now, I would never, ever, ever put a win bet on this horse at anything lower than 2 to 1. And it looks like that's what he's going to be. I like this horse a lot. Emmet, let's just go to the protagonist right away. You are against this horse mainly because of the surface question.
Yeah, I am. Look, it's hard not to love him. He's a 11-time Group 1 winner. He's an extraordinary horse. He's going for his 5th Group 1 win in another country, which is something the Highland Reel did, and I absolutely adored that racehorse. So it's great to see a Hong Kong flag bearer doing as well as he is, and his trainer is adamant that he'll handle the surface. He's trained on the dirt out in Hong Kong. He's trained on it all week, looking good. So did City of Troy. And his trainer was adamant that he'd handle the dirt, and it was a complete disaster. This dirt won't be as attritional as Maidan, so it would be easier for him here to a certain extent, and Mishriff handled it. If this was a turf race, he's a long odds-on favourite, but it's not. I find it really interesting that on this side of the pond in Britain and Ireland, they're locked together, Forever Young and Romantic Warrior, both 9 to 4. If he goes and wins, I will salute him. Good luck to him, but I can admire what he's done and just cheer him on from the sidelines. He's not a win bet position for me.
We want to hear your opinions in the chat if you have any questions for Davy or Emmet. And then we are going to be on for about 5 minutes or 5-10 minutes the most after the race is over. But any questions on this race in particular, please put them in the chat. Davy, it's important for people to understand not every dirt course is the same, just like not every turf course is the same. Let's talk about Saudi's dirt course. It is not the same as Dubai. Dubai is much more traditional, deeper dirt course. Turf horses in general do not do well in general in Dubai. Saudi is not the same. It's a much more thinner grained sand. It's not nearly as deep. Turf horses in general have a flatter, bigger hoof, their foot. And because this particular dirt course in Saudi is not as deep and it's plays a little more closer to synthetic than most dirt courses, we've seen turf horses do very well over this dirt. I just mentioned Mishriff, who won this in 21. Your thoughts on the surface for Romantic Warrior and his chances, Davey, in this race?
Well, that's probably the reason the connections are taking a swing. They know this. They're not fools, and they know that this is a dirt surface that they can get away with, and it's the richest world. And they're not planning on winning this and going to the Dubai World Cup. They're not interested in going to the Dubai World Cup and finishing 5th because they know it's deeper and the horse won't handle it. So they're taking this shot here, and good luck to them. I mean, it makes perfect sense. They've got the best jockey, they've got the highest earning horse, and they've got a horse that should be able to handle this surface because it's closer to just everything you just described. So you have to see it's that these things are different, and they're different also at the time of day, and they're different depending on the conditions, such as rain or what have you. So as everyone here listening would know. So this makes this horse live. This is not a throw at the stumps, as they say in Australia. You know, this is a well thought out plan. You know, based on these variables. These guys have figured these variables out. And they've probably looked at Mishrif, who was a turf runner, winner of the French Prix de Jockey Club, right?
Yes.
As a horse that went to Saudi and won. So they've done all their homework. So they're not here just because they want to come to Saudi and wave the Hong Kong flag and stuff. They're here to win it.
We got Andres Rafa. He said, very good form. What is he missing for? They're talking about El Código. A lot of love for El Código. It's amazing. This is the great thing about doing a live podcast, Emmet. I have people in the chat that love Romantic Warrior. I won't touch Romantic Warrior. I mean, he's very polarizing right now. So we're going to see Romantic Warrior does. Let's go down to Walk of Stars, the number 12, who is a middle draw, I think the 6-hole. Davy, we know that our friend Phil Edwards is a little bit interested in Walk of Stars, who should be up close. And this race on paper, Davy, does not have as much early speed or pace as it did last year when it fell apart into the hands of Senor Buscador.
Right, and Walk of Stars can take advantage of this from post 6, and the sort of the chat is that he might be able to sneak away from that post, and that's how he goes forward. So they'll have to keep an eye on him. He's no Laurel River, but he's a good replacement for the same connection, for the same trainer, for sure. I personally don't like him. I couldn't have him, but a lot of logical reasons for him that he'll get an early lead. And once you've got the lead, remember the animals. Not all the animals know where the winning post is, particularly in tracks they've not used to. I mean, maybe he'll escape.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we have a lot of international viewers and new viewers, and I apologize for those of you who have seen this before, but we have a fantastic tip sheet. Look below our video player to find out about our Power Picks tip sheet. I'll just go ahead. This is today's edition. I'm not going to scroll through the whole thing, but it gives fantastic spot plays, ABC grids, opinions on a lot of really good races in the U.S. If you're interested in U.S. racing, check it out. We also, Davy Lane, as you can see on the screen, has a blog on our website, which is right here, HHH Racing Podcast. Go to click more and follow the jockey. And Davy does give tips on everything throughout the world. So if you are watching from Australia or South America or whatever, please go to our website, hhhracingpodcast.com, and check that out. There is the information, guys. I need to do these promos. Emmet gets it. When we get this kind of audience, we got to make sure everyone knows about the wonderful things that we do provide here. And of course, smash that subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. All right. Walk of Stars. Any chance, Kennedy, in your opinion, real quick?
Yeah, also hit subscribe to the Final Furlong podcast on YouTube as well.
Yes, I'm sorry. I should let you. Absolutely. Please do support the Final Furlong podcast. Emma, remind me to let you talk about that before the race here. Go ahead.
Thank you. We'll be talking more about the jumps racing, but switching to the flat. We'll have some big trainer interviews as well.
Walk of Stars, any chance?
Yeah, he does. And I'd like a zoom in on Charlie Appleby and Sheikh Mohammed in the crowd if he goes and wins this race, because there was a time where they thought this horse could win the Derby for them. That didn't work at all. He's been discarded by them, and now suddenly he's in line to go win the richest dirt race in the world, richest race in the world for that matter. He was really good in Meydan the last day. If he gets the easy lead, he might be able to get away from them. He shouldn't be good enough, but that doesn't mean he can't be.
I agree. I am against rail and roll, and this is now there are a lot of U.S. horses that were supposed to go here. White Bar decided not to. Sierra Leone had a little bit of an issue, is not here. Fierceness is not here. This is not a top-ranked American horse. For those of you who are not familiar with American racing, he's a nice horse. He's a Group 2, Grade 2 kind of horse, borderline Grade 1, but I don't think he's of this level. I do think it's very smart of the connections to get a prep in the Middle East, but I just don't think he is good enough. Let's go to Ramjet. Guys, this is one of my long shots. I don't think Ramjet can win, but he's not been far off Forever Young. He was nominated to the Kentucky Derby last year here in the States and just didn't have enough points on the Japanese circuit to get in. But it's a Japanese horse who's improving out of a Sire Majestic Warrior who's got AP Indy in his bloodline. Why can't Ramjet Davy hit the board at a huge price?
He could not just hit the board. He could win it.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, why? I mean, I'm playing a try, and I'm having him in all 3 slots. To be honest,
I like it. A reverse try key. Al
Yeah.
Musmak. Al Musmak, Davy. You can talk about Ramjet in a second. This
Right.
horse might have the lead. Won very well last time. 72-1. Why do some very smart people that we know like this horse, Davy?
They like it because it's basically a British horse that's on the bubble of winning, of being in classics in Britain as younger, and had a few niggles, and then got sold on. So but for the grace of God, this horse is running around as a famous turf horse in Britain and winning classics, and it doesn't get the breaks, gets a niggle, and then gets sold on and lands up in Saudi Arabia with a Kuwaiti owner who's looking to try and make bank. I mean, it's not a name that the average British punter would know about unless they're like deep into the knowledge, and they're like, oh, that was Roger Varian's horse, and what happened?
Yeah.
Oh, whoa, okay. Yeah. So why not?
I mean, Emmet, in the form line Emmets, you see Roslyn Economics, JRB. I mean, he's facing very good horses.
Yeah, he was sent. I think I covered the Dante last year. I'm pretty sure he was 3rd favorite. He was. I had to check it out. He was 3rd favorite for the Dante last year. Ancient Wisdom was sent off favorite. That was the race where Economics really announced himself as, we need to pay close attention to this horse. And from what I can remember, William Haggis was telling anybody who'd listened to him how good Economics was. But obviously, the Variant camp were telling anybody who'd listened to them that this fellow was really good as well, given the fact that he was sent off that price. And Variant's horses, when they're well backed, like that's one of the shrewdest operations going. Like they rarely miss. So he obviously just had a few problems. Same ownership, just been switched to the Middle East. I wouldn't rule him out.
Well, you got to open up a category of horses here, Howard. That we started with Romantic Warrior, but we've got these turf horses, and off the top of my head, there's 4 of them. We're Al Musmak, we've got Factor Cheval, and we've got the Argentine horse Intense forever.
And let's talk about El Código. This horse is getting a lot of love in the chat. He's very good. He just beat Intense. If he can handle the dirt, maybe he can class up here and surprise.
He can handle the dirt. He just won an over 1.5 miles in the.
That was the dirt. I'm sorry. Yep.
No, but he basically he won the Ramirez, the top race in Uruguay, over the dirt last month.
Yes.
And for the last 2 years, he's been 1st and 2nd in the Pellegrini, the weight for age classic of South America. So this is a top horse, and he's like Mishrif. He's the dual use. So he's not just a turf going dirt. He's already been turf and dirt already. And listen, he's cutting back a little bit. He's live. Did you look at the time that he won the race in Uruguay? What was it? 2 minutes 30.
2:30.
That's fast.
And those are deeper surfaces in general in South America. So El Código, a lot of good luck to everyone who is backing El Código, especially our great friends who are watching in our Latin American countries. Forever Young. Let's talk about Forever Young, Emmet, as the last horse. Then I'll let you talk about your podcast, and then we'll watch the $20 million Saudi Cup. This is a very, very likable colt by Real Steel out of a Congrats mare. So there's U.S. breeding in here also. The horse is 9 for 9 in the money, 7 for 9 lifetime, has won $4.2 million plus. We know him here in the United States, ran a blinder in the Derby, ran very well in the Breeders' Cup Classic, was ridden way too aggressively in that race, was up close to a very fast pace. I liked him in that race. He should have taken back a little more and made a run. I didn't like the ride. He does have the same rider here, which I know Davey and I have small misgivings about this particular rider. He's 5-2, and I would say Emmet, definitely the second most likely winner, if not the most likely winner in this race. And I know you like this horse, Emmet, and you're getting 5-2. Nothing wrong with that price.
Yeah, well, you're getting 5-2. I'm not. I can only get 7-4 here. I think that 5-2 is gold, and I think he's the most likely winner. He's the horse with the fewest question marks hanging over him. We know he's going to handle the dirt. We know he's going to handle this track. He won at this meeting a year ago. I've heard some people saying, he won't like cutting back in distance. He won over a mile here a year ago. He won the UAE Derby over this trip as well, and he fairly bolted up that day. You could argue he was less impressive in this race than any of his others, but he's probably a horse who should have gone to the Breeders' Cup Classic unbeaten. Now, he didn't, and there's various different reasons as to why, but that's top-class dirt form he's bringing into this race, and the Americans just haven't come over, with the greatest respect to the Kenny McPeak horse who has. He's technically speaking not only representing the best of Japan who've dominated this meeting and have dominated for the last few years, he's really representing the best of the American dirt form as well, with no Sierra Leone in here. So I think he's a massive, massive player. And his connections keep saying the same thing over and over again. He doesn't like kickback, which flies in the face of what you see. He seems to be perfectly okay with kickback. But I mention that because that wide draw you could see as a negative. It actually might be a beneficial thing for him because he should avoid the kickback. I think he's a class apart. Aside from Romantic Warrior, who's obviously the world's highest rated horse and the world's biggest money earner as well. These are the two ones you want to see fighting out the finish, really. But he's the one who has the fewer question marks, and so the odds against really appeals.
Well, it's a very important point you made. So let's talk about the kickback. In the Derby, there's obviously always a lot of kickback. It's a 20-horse field. He was able to get out of the kickback at one point, especially on the far turn into the stretch. And unfortunately, he was playing bumper cars with my favorite horse in the race, Sierra Leone, and we know what happened. Now, at Del Mar, there was less kickback on that surface, and he was on the rail taking a lot of kickback, but still was able to run through it. So I think he is improving. And I'll tell you what, if I'm a fan of Forever Young, I agree with you, Emmet. I'd rather be in the 14 hole here than the 1 gate. I think it's a very, very, very long run into that turn at Saudi. I don't think the post is going to hurt him at all. I do based on the price, I would absolutely bet here Forever Young, and I would fancy him a lot more than Romantic Warrior based on the price. And I put us on screen, Emmet. That's what this game is about. You're not betting into, a desert, or you're not betting. Well, you are betting into a desert, but you're not betting into a black hole. Is what I meant to say. I mean, the odds should matter, and value matters as we approach 5 minutes. Let's go out very quickly. Your top pick, Emmet, is Forever Young, correct?
I think Forever Young is the most likely winner. Look, from a betting standpoint, and I'm starting to get a little bit worried because nobody's backing him. In fact, you can get 16-1 now about Factor Cheval, and there's no logical reason as to why he should turn the form around with Walk of Stars, except when you factor in that he's a French horse, and the French attitude to prep races is, it's a prep, we don't care, sacre bleu, let them run. I think Miguel Barcelona was just letting him get used to the dirt that day. The dirt in Meydan is a hell of a lot more attritional than the dirt he'll face here, and he's a proper classy racehorse. He's a time form rating of 122 on the flat. Romantic Warriors 129. I think Forever Young is 122 as well. That's obviously a dirt speed figure. What I'm saying essentially is this is a proper Group 1 performer who was being aimed at the Breeders' Cup Classic last year and just had too hard a race against Sharon in the QE2, and he was the only horse who could give Sharon, who is a proper Group 1 performer over a mile, a race that day. He's already performed in the Middle East. If he should handle the dirt surface, this will be a lot easier for him than Meydan, and you're getting a massive, massive price about him now at 16-1. If Romantic Warrior doesn't fire, then he's the one I think who can be the big challenger to Forever Young.
Interesting. Davey, there are a lot of prices you can go with here, but who do you like in this year's Saudi Cup?
I think you've got to go for a price. I mean, I've already bet the two protagonists when they were bigger prices earlier, so I'm less concerned. I think you've got to look at the Argentine import El Código, and you've got to look at Ramjet as prices, and you've got to put a bet on both of those to price. And I'm actually playing a trifecta right now, and I'm including those three,
nice.
Those two in all places. And I have a question related to you on that.
Yes.
Can Rattling Roll rock up the third place?
Yes. If the pace heats up and he runs his very best race, I think it's possible. I like him underneath at best. I just don't like him on the win end, Davey.
Yeah.
But in a trifecta, in a tricast, I would use him underneath. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, I would.
Okay. He's 10.0 on the international on the Hong Kong, and he's 8-1 in Britain. So there is money for him. Probably American money, actually, though, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's mainly. But he, like I said, he did win a prep. There's 4 minutes to post. This is a perfect time to allow you to talk about your awesome podcast called the Final Furlong Podcast. For those of you not familiar, it's out of Ireland. Emmet, you got about 2 or 3 minutes to expound on the virtues of the Final Furlong Podcast. Go ahead, my friend.
I won't take 2 minutes. I'll only take a couple of seconds. I need to get Davy on the show pretty soon. Actually, I want to pick Davy's brains on the betting industry, but also pick his brains for some winners. Howard, I need to get you on preferably before the Kentucky Derby, but maybe even before that as well. We might do something for Dubai, and I'm more than happy to come on for the Dubai one as well. The Final Furlong podcast is a podcast that we do twice a week. We talk about the biggest stories, the biggest races on Mondays, and we look ahead to the weekend's racing on Thursdays. There's loads of different feature interviews with various different trainers, jockeys, industry insiders, special episodes that we do as well. You can listen to it for free on any podcast app. Your support is greatly appreciated. It's all for free. Or you can subscribe and watch the shows for free on YouTube as well. And the team that I have analyzing the races have been smashing in the winners left, right, and center. Peter Michael's nap of the day was a 5-1 shot that bolted up in the first race today. So Final Furlong podcast, check us out on YouTube and all good podcast apps and some rubbish ones as well.
I love it. Emmet does a fantastic job. And I just want to throw out kudos to my great support team, my co-host, Pete Visco, Paul Halloran. I've got 2 other great shows. Emmet knows I have a lot of 20-something guys on my other shows. I think it's extremely important to boost up the Gen Z crowd. And Emmet, I know you agree with that. I have several shows here. We have several shows on the HHH Racing podcast. We, of course, are also free. The tip sheet's very inexpensive. We have shows Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursday nights on YouTube. Just type in HHH Racing Podcast in the search bar. We greatly appreciate everyone's support today and your viewership. Guys, there's 1 minute left to the Saudi Cup right now. Wow, Romantic Warrior is 3-5 in the Whirlpool. I am very surprised he's that low. Incredible. Forever Young, who is, boy, you could make a strong arm. He's the likely winner. You're getting 5-2. And then everyone else is almost double digits except for Rail and Roll, the American 9-1. I'm going to make a small little bet on Ramjet, guys, at 42-1. The number 7, I'm playing him to win. I'm playing a little bit of place money. There's no each way. I'm going to stay away from a trifecta. I haven't had the best of days here today, and I've got some American racing punting to do, guys, because it's only, it's not even noon yet here in Chicago. So my day is just starting. I'm going to try mess around with the number 7, Ramjet. Someone asked if we're going to be showing the race live. The video, we cannot show the video due to contractual obligations, obviously, but they are going to the gate. We are going to show the audio. I'm going to take these guys, we're going to take everyone off screen, and we're going to play the audio of the 2025 Saudi Cup live from Saudi Arabia. Crush your bets in the Saudi Cup. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Good luck.
This horse likes to make all the running. He's drawing 6. He's the one that's starting to get a little bit fresh and free sweating down at the start.
There is nothing like the knot in the stomach that develops before a major international sports event. This is one such. There is the Hong Kong hero, the romantic warrior against the Japanese dirt samurai, Forever Young, and multiple other significant dangers. It will be intense. It will take 1 minute 51, 1 minute 52 seconds, and there is no hiding place from start to finish. Thank you to Rachel. Thank you to Tom, Richard Hoyles, Tim Barder, all the team who've put this together. Thank you for your company tonight on a spectacular night in Rian. Richard Hoyles, for the
Early on, it is Walk of Stars who moved forward. Romantic Warrior jumped well and just moves off the rail to get some clear daylight and avoid the kickback. Looking for Forever Young, who's broken well and is right across the field as well. Al Musmak is racing in a handy position with Defunded through the first 200. They're being followed by Ramjet, and also there is Wait to Excel. As last year, Ashpat Tesoro's the one off the back end. Also towards the back at this stage is Rattle and Roll, well behind as they make their way through the first 400 meters. Forever Young in the maroon colours, but it's Al Musmak towards the outside with Defunded, and right there on the running rails, Walk of Stars. Romantic Warrior tracks them in 5th place, Pale Blue racing on the inside of Wait to Excel, then Ramjet wider out to the white cap of El Codigo. Factor Cheval is at the back of that leading group on the outside of Wilson Tesoro. Then behind those is Intense for Me, still a gap back to Wooden Sun. Rattle and Roll well back, and Ushpa Tesoro as Romantic Warrior moves off the running rail as they approach the bend. So out in the lead, Forever Young on the outside, disputing it with Walk of Stars. Right round the outside, Romantic Warrior will be 5 wide into the turn, but he's poised under James McDonald as the big two move through. Forever Young, Romantic Warrior sweeps up on the outside for Hong Kong. They lock horns, and it's Romantic Warrior who finds most initially from Forever Young in second place. The two of them are clear from Wilson to Soro and Factor Chabal, two of the great racehorses in the world. And at the moment, Romantic Warrior holds sway. His rider looks across. Forever Young is trying to close, and he's beginning to do so. Romantic Warrior from the outside. Forever Young has got to within 3 parts of a length. Romantic Warrior, Forever Young, a race for the ages, and Forever Young rounds off a terrific night for Japan. Runs down Romantic Warrior and breaks Hong Kong hearts.
Wow. Wow. What an unbelievable race. Two of the best racehorses in the world. I think we can safely say the two best horse races in the world right now. Romantic Warrior, Emmet, and Forever Young in a complete throwdown in the Saudi Cup in the stretch. Romantic Warrior with a very aggressive move on the far turn. Maybe he wanted to stay out of the kickback, like we said, and went by the entire field, but was wide the whole way. Forever Young was beaten mid-stretch, come to the outside, and goes by the best horse in the world, wins by half a length. They were, 8 clear, it looks like, of the third place finisher. Emmet, congrats, my friend. Great call. What a race. Wow.
Thank you. You can be right and you can be wrong at the same time. And that's an example of that, because Romantic Warrior handled the dirt no problem whatsoever. And arguably was the best horse in the race, because the way he's moved up and he's on the outside and he's had to switch to the inside and he's controlled the race and he's basically broken Forever Young. He's done everything right. But Forever Young has the heart of a champion and didn't give in and has come roaring back. And one of the things I didn't mention beforehand is, while you can handle the dirt surface, do you have the conditioning to run through the dirt? Because it's just a different level of fitness. And that's what we see with our European horses when we try to take you on in America. Your fitness levels are just on a different level entirely. And that applies to the Japanese and the dirt as well. That American dirt form and Japanese dirt form comes to the fore for Forever Young. Great ride from his jockey. He could easily have given up. He wasn't going to in the most valuable race. And the horse had the heart to go and fight back as well. Super effort from Romantic Warrior. What a fantastic effort from him. He has run his heart out. And anybody who was taking the money laid on, by the way, there was a monster gamble on this side of the pond on Walk of Stars, 10-1 into 13-2 before the off. He hit 6-1, went back out. Forever Young and Romantic Warrior locked together, 11-8, each of 2. Romantic Warrior just drifts. The money was right. Forever Young comes out on top. What a blinding race.
I mean, I don't care where you're from, even if you don't even like horse racing. That was, Davy, that was just a fantastic race. And, there is no loser in this race. I know. I understand Forever Young won. I'll tell you what, massive, massive respect to Romantic Warrior, Davy, who maybe Emmet was right. Maybe he moved a little bit soon and a little bit wide, because he could have stayed behind horses, Davy, and track, but instead he went to the outside to get a clear run and ended up being 4 wide on the whole turn. I'm not blaming the jockey at all, but the fact of the matter is, if he saved more ground, he probably would have been able to hold on. But you know what? There are very few, if any, horses in the entire world, Davy, that would have run down Romantic Warrior in the stretch, and Forever Young did. What a horse.
Yeah, he moved him out for a reason, probably. Maybe he said, maybe the dirt was affecting the jockey too. Maybe the jockey just wanted, the goggles and the whole lot. He got wide for a reason when he did, and it was a very profound move to go 5 wide like he did. And he knew he had a lot of horse. So I mean, no, you can't criticize him. I mean, he went for the jugular. He went for the win. He tried to kill them off, and he almost pulled it off. But he's going against a great horse, so
I have zero problem with the ride. And when we, here in the United States, we have a lot of different figures, guys. The ground loss comparison between Romantic Warrior and Forever Young is massive. I mean, if someone were to tell me right now that Romantic Warrior ran the better race, I can't disagree with them, guys. I mean, I liked Romantic Warrior. I didn't bet on the win end because of the price. I feel very justified, Emmet. I thought he ran a blinder. He ran as good as a horse can run while losing at the same time.
Look, I put up Forever Young. I backed Forever Young. I obviously had the interest in Factor Cheval as well. I thought that Forever Young was going to win the race. Romantic Warrior is the best horse in that race. Without a shadow of a doubt, he's the best horse in that race. And there's so much has gone wrong.
Not according to Mike. Not according to Mike. He said the best horse won. Here we go again, guys. Just because he crossed the finish line first doesn't mean he ran the best race. But I don't want to get into a big argument. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Emma. Go ahead.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, let's listen. This is the great thing. Two things can be true at the same time. Like, I was wrong. I didn't think that Romantic Warrior would handle the dirt. And you can make the argument that the reason he's lost the race is because it's a dirt surface. If this is a turf race, Forever Young won't be as good. And is there any turf horse in the world that could actually lay up with Romantic Warrior in that way? I'm not so sure. I would love to see him at Royal Ascot. I don't know if they have any interest in doing it. The prize money just doesn't compare to Hong Kong, and it sure as hell doesn't compare to what's on offer today. But bring him over to the UK, run him in the Northern Hemisphere, run him in our best Group 1 race. You don't even have to give way to the 3-year-olds. There's no 3-year-olds in the Prince of Wales. It's a 4-year-old and up race. So everything is there for you to go and win. And I can't think of a horse in the Northern Hemisphere over 10 furlongs that could lay a glove on him right now. But everything that could have gone wrong for Romantic Warrior did. He's out wide. He then drifts into the inside rail. And Forever Young just happens to have the conditioning to be able to go and fight back and then have the heart to do so as well. Most horses, when that happens, they just stop. They're not going to fight back, but somehow Forever Young did. I'm delighted. I'm very pleased, but geez, I think Romantic Warrior was the best horse in that race, definitely.
Yeah, Thomas Spinoza.
Was the third, guys? I'm not trying to give it short shrift. I just can't tell. The camera, the coverage is not great, to be very honest.
Was it Usha?
Came up to third.
Tom said it was Ushba for third.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. Well, good. I mean, good for them, guys. That's 3 Asian horses finishing 1, 2, 3, and the 1, 2 finishers completely blew away everyone else. Now, let's say this going forward, then we'll end the show. By the way, Pete Visco, one of my good friends and co-hosts, said Forever Young ran the best race. This we can have that argument for days. I don't want to get into it. They both ran huge. Let's just say that. I don't want to be negative at all. It was an unbelievable race. It went to the billing that we thought it would. It was a tremendous race. They are both champions. Congratulations to both horses.
Just for clarification, I'm a big fan of the jockey, not
of who, Davy?
Romantic Warrior.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
I mean, unbelievable.
He's been good tonight.
Guys, Forever Young got past. I thought it was over. I mean, that stretch is forever, by the way. If you had Romantic Warrior, that stretch just goes on forever. Now,
Howard, when he blew right by him. He blew right by him, and he murdered him. And somehow Forever Young has managed to galvanize and come back. That's a spectacular performance.
Yeah, well, he did again, and you know that. I'm not telling you this, Emmet, because you don't understand it. For the viewers, it took him a lot of energy to blow by him, though. He had to go 4 wide the entire turn while Forever Young was saving ground. And, of course, then it took energy to go by him. And good on the jock, by the way, Forever Young going to the outside. I don't know if he had a choice, really, but, you know, maybe he doesn't love the kickback either, right? We talked about that. So because Romantic Warrior sort of crossed over in front of him. So unbelievable. Curtis Watson, great show, gentlemen. Curtis, you really appreciate it. Let's just enjoy the battles, what he said. I completely agree. Now let's quickly talk about going forward. Scarface wanted to know who won. It was Forever Young over Romantic Warrior over, we believe, Ushba, who was the 9? No, the 9 was Romantic Warrior. So I don't know the numbers. I apologize, but it came 5-9 something, and I greatly apologize. That's a host fail. But what number was Ushba, guys? Do you have that?
10.
Yeah.
Number 10.
We think it came 5-9-10. Very quickly going forward. We'll end the show, guys. What do we do going forward? Romantic Warrior, if I'm them, I go to the Rich turf race in Dubai. I think he'll be 3-5 in that race against very good horses, though, and probably win. Forever Young, it's a no-brainer. You go to Dubai if he comes out of this race. But I will say this, guys. The Dubai World Cup's going to be a much tougher race. There are going to be better dirt horses coming there. There'll probably be less turf horses that maybe can run on dirt. That is going to be a tougher race. But, geez, I mean, Forever Young's the best dirt horse in the world right now. I don't even think it's a question, Emmet.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I was checking out where my beloved Sierra Leone is, and apparently he's going to be coming back for a handicap in America in April, I believe.
Correct. Yeah. He is not going to Dubai. That is correct.
So he's missing this and Dubai. That makes the path that little bit easier for him. Walk of Stars never really got into this, so he shouldn't have any issue with him. Laurel River had a comeback run. He'll need to improve from it, but he was a monster in the Dubai World Cup last year. This is a long-winded way of me saying I think he'll win the Dubai World Cup if he goes there. As for Romantic Warrior, the Dubai, that's a hard race. That's taken a lot out of him. And I think it's a harder race for him than Forever Young in the context of how it's panned out, even though they've both had to battle really, really hard. But I suspect that Forever Young will improve for this race. For Romantic Warrior, look, if they can go to Maidan, that's brilliant. I'd love to see him there and go for the Dubai Turf. He'd probably win. If not, lads, bring him to... Come on, Hong Kong. Take him to Royal Ascot. Bring him to Royal Ascot. Bring him to the Prince of Wales Stakes. I'd love to see that.
Davey, you think we'll see Romantic Warrior at Ascot or in Europe this year?
I don't know. I mean, I really don't. I mean, they don't want to break the horse, and that, who knows what today's race has done to him, So I don't want to speculate. I think they're just, I really don't. I mean, their plan is to go to Dubai to run on the turf, and it should be a penalty kick. But I don't want to speculate because you can get into this business of,
Davey, shouldn't they go for the Dubai World Cup as well?
Who?
Romantic Warrior.
No, they're not going there. They've just said they're going to the turf race. There was
I'd run him in the World Cup.
Would you?
I'd hold him. I'd hold him longer, and run. He's handled the dirt there. I know it's going to be a different dirt surface, but
well, the other thing, Emmet, is that's 1.25 miles around 2 turns. It definitely plays different. Stamina is going to come into play. Not that he doesn't have stamina, but I don't think there's a wrong answer, but I agree with Davey. I would probably go to the turf. And what is that, a $6 million race, I believe? I mean, what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
He just improved his stud value greatly, right? By this
versus
race.
12 or 14, though?
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. It'll be interesting, Emmet. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to see. Yep.
Yeah.
Guys, any final thoughts on the day? We're going to wrap up the show. I cannot thank, first of all, Emmet and Davey Lane. God bless you guys. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate you coming on, spending all this time. Again, if you appreciate, there is a way to donate to the channel and to these guys if you want. In the chat below on YouTube, below the chat, there is a $. Feel free to make a donation if you'd like, but we really appreciate you guys coming on. You guys did yeoman's work. It's been a long show. I had a blast. It maybe wasn't best for our pocketbook, although Emmet, you had some winners. Davey, you and I had some close ones that just didn't quite work out. Any final thoughts? First from Emmet on the day overall, and a final reminder about your awesome podcast, the Final Furlong podcast.
Well, Howard, thanks very much for having me. First of all, I really enjoyed it, and thanks to everybody for the comments below as well. That's been great too. And Davey, you're a class act. Howard, you're a class act. I love this show. I really enjoyed the dynamic, and I'd love to do the Dubai one with you as well. So touch wood, please God, we'll all be fitting well, and we'll do that. Final thoughts. Very simply, I, for one, would like to welcome our new Japanese overlords. I've always been a fan of Japanese racing, and I'm more than happy for them. They tried to rule the world in one way. It turns out they're going to rule the world in racing. So we're going to be okay with that.
Very well said, Emmet. Davey, my friend, thanks for coming on. Final thoughts about the day and anything else you want to promote or anything else in your world?
Well, just 2 things. One, to talk about the day. I mean, racing can be tough, but it was a race earlier on, Cracks King, which we all said was the best horse in the race, thrown out wide, and had that won because we played that as a single A in a pick 6. Yep. Then the pick 6 we would have won the pick 6 today.
Yes, we would have hit it
at the Japanese horse as a C. So
Davey, we did get 5 out of 6 3 times. If it pays 5 out of 6, we do have it 3 times. Just to let you know. But my friend, it's not going to pay $10K like last year. I got news for you. But
okay, so I only thought they paid out 5 out of 6 if there was no winners. No, they paid 5 out of 6. Anyway.
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know. We'll have to check and see. But anyway, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So that shows you the game can be quite hard. I mean, I was on Cracks King for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I was trying to get on the horse early, but the bookies weren't putting a price out. They just were.
Thanks, Sylvain.
Thank you, Sylvain. They weren't putting a price out, but that's the game. The game can be tough, but you got to learn to absorb it, not get too down on it, and always remember that there's races all the time. So don't get buried into one race, because later on tonight there's racing, maybe not as good, but tomorrow is a big day. You got your Oaklawn, you got Kentucky Derby preps, and on the blog I've got 2 races over in Japan that I've promoted, and the Rachel King on a good horse called I'll give the name out, Luxa Cafe, who could be the Kentucky Derby winner this year if it comes through the Hyatt Stakes tomorrow. So there's racing next week and so on. So there's always racing every week. There's always something. So don't get buried into 1 week or 1 loss or 1 win. Slow burn and enjoy it.
Absolutely.
That's
Davy and Emmet, thanks again. Really appreciate it. HHH Racing Podcast. This is your host, Howard Kravets. We had a great time with Emmet Kennedy and Davy Lane. We have shows Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights. We'll be back Tuesday. And Emmet Kennedy just announced it. I'm going to hold you to it, Emmet. Emmet will be back for the Dubai World Cup night. Hopefully Davy will join us as well. Again, thank you so much to our literally thousands of listeners and viewers and everyone who supports the HHH Racing Podcast. And gentlemen, as we say on the show, crush your bets wherever you're playing the rest of the weekend. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
If you have not followed his Triple H Horse Racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.